Phoenix Nights. Chapter 602. Go, hurry and bring me the original copy of the first half of the Blood Demon scripture. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction sat there and glanced at White's Sovereign King. Don't worry, with me here, old White Ghost won't play any tricks. If you want to deal with him alone in the future, you have to be careful. White Sovereign King laughed. Great Destruction, don't ruin my reputation. After saying that, White Sovereign King looked at Dongbush Shuiying with suspicion. Why wasn't he moving? Dongbush Shuiying sat there very naturally. With a flip of his hand, a blood-colored book appeared in his hand. The book was emitting a boundless bloody and evil aura. The entire book was like an endless sea of blood. I happen to have the original copy of this absolute art with me, so there's no need for me to go back and forth to the vast water world. You have it with you? White Sovereign King was shocked. He actually brought it with him. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction was also surprised. They all believed that this Dongbush Shuiying had a 99% chance of hiding the original copy of the Blood Demon scripture. If he did, then the initiative would be with Dongbush Shuiying. Even if they killed him, they would not be able to obtain the original copy of the absolute art. But Dongbush Shuiying actually brought it with him. Was it arrogance? Or was it confidence? I'm a little regretful that I didn't use my full strength to kill you. If I had killed you, it would have fallen into my hands. White Sovereign King shook his head and sighed. Admirable, admirable. You actually have such guts to even deceive me. Dongbush Shuiying laughed, and did not explain. If he had not obtained that talisman by chance, he would not have brought the original copy of the absolute art with him. Haha, that's good too. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction smiled and nodded. With a wave of his hand, a black book appeared. The black book's aura was similarly bloody and evil, and it was even denser. The aura of the two books came from the same source. The second volume was more profound and introverted. Let's learn it separately. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction did not hesitate to send a strand of energy towards the original copy of the Blood Demon scripture, accepting the inheritance. Dongbush Shuiying, White Sovereign King, and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction all learned it. This was Dongbush Shuiying's first time learning the Blood Demon scripture, and he learned it in one go. Now that his true deity heart was stronger, his learning speed was also faster. Created by the Ancestor Demon? Who is this Ancestor Demon? He seems to be really strong. Dongbush Shuiying thought to himself. The Blood Demon scripture is one of his 6 great legacies? The Blood Demon scripture was an extremely evil absolute art. In order to cultivate it, one had to first transform one's body. There were 2 ways to transform one's body. One was purely relying on one's own body. It had extremely high requirements for comprehension and willpower, and cultivating it was extremely painful. The other method was to rely on the help of countless ghosts, which was 10 times easier. If he relied on ghosts, the further he progressed, the more souls he would need to devour, and the further he progressed, the harder it would be. Below true divinity it was still easy, but above true divinity, this ultimate art had almost no hope of reaching large success. Only by relying on oneself could one be considered the great Tao. Although the technique was evil, but his own strength was pure. If he could master the Blood Demon scripture, he would be able to completely change his life form. Not even sovereigns would be able to kill him, and his aura would be no weaker than the voodoo poison. His strength might even surpass Monarch Green and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Nirvana, how is it? Is it worth learning from? White Sovereign King had a smile on his face. Clearly, he was quite happy. Learning from? Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction sneered. This inheritance of Ancestor Devil walks on the path of transforming one's body. Ultimately, even one's life form will be completely changed. If one truly wholeheartedly walks on this path, then that would be walking on the wrong path. You must know that back then, Ancestor Devil had 6 incarnations, and this is merely an inheritance created by one of them. The 6 incarnations are also 6 great inheritances. An Ancestor Devil's true body is inclusive of everything. Furthermore, The absolute art I created is even stronger than the blood demon scripture. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction's words were filled with absolute confidence. After obtaining the complete blood demon scripture, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction became disdainful after understanding it. Yes, yes, yes. Great Destruction, you are right. You are the one closest to a ruler in our abyss. White Sovereign King praised. I can't compare to you. I know my own limits. If I can take another step and become a ruler, then I will be satisfied. This blood demon scripture is still very useful to me. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction looked at White Sovereign King. He could only believe 1 out of 10 of White Sovereign King's words. He would be satisfied just by becoming a ruler. How was that possible? This old fellow. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction sneered inwardly. There were not many paragons that could make him wary. In the entire Dark Abyss, there were only 2. One was Purgatory Great Commander, and the other was White Sovereign King. Purgatory Great Commander was extremely formidable. He had already made Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction suffer twice. But comparing the two, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction was more wary of White Sovereign King. On the surface, Purgatory Great Commander did not rely on a ruler. But in reality, he had a close relationship with one of the 3 rulers of the Abyss, Purgatory Ruler. White Sovereign King was different. He truly did not have any backing. Yet he continued to stand tall. Formidable. This blood demon scripture is truly formidable. It is much better than what I expected. White Sovereign King was ecstatic in his heart. This encounter was much better than what he had expected. Who would have thought? This blood demon scripture is actually the same as the Tao I created myself. It seems to be from the same source. Dongbu Shuang, have you learned it all? Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction asked. I've learned it all. Dongbu Shuang replied. Old White Ghost, revive the Transcendent from the River of Time. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction said. White Sovereign King's harvest was huge. Seeing that Dongbu Shuang was pleasing to the eye, he chuckled and said, Of course. I did say that I would help revive him. Saying that, he stood up. Dongbu Shuang and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction also stood up. The 3 of them looked towards the distant sky. When controlling space-time, the area in front of them was originally shrouded in clouds. But suddenly it was like peeling off the skin of a tangerine, revealing the flesh within. This layer of space became blurry, revealing a vast and mighty river at a deeper level. This river surged violently. It covered the entire universe, surging through the deity world, abyss, and even the material realm. Every single life, from stage 4 world deities to ants without any intelligence, all of them were sinking in the river of time. This river of time and the vast universe seemed to be on a different level. It was like there were 2 levels. The deity world, abyss, and material realm were on the same level. As for the river of time, it was on an even deeper level. The river of time recorded every single life that was sinking. From birth to death, as long as they had not transcended, it would be recorded. This is truly unbearable. Dongbu Shuang also saw himself. He was within the river as well. His body was huge, and his aura was powerful. He was the largest body within the vast river. After all, the strongest being sinking in the river of time was only a stage 4 world deity. And it was difficult to find a stage 4 world deity stronger than Dongbu Shuang. Only Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was stronger. But Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was ultimately in a different part of the river. Within this part of the river, that towering figure was incomparably huge. Around it were countless lives that were sinking. Billions of them surrounded Dongbu Shuang. Dongbu Shuang. On the shore of the void beside the river of time, there were 2 figures. They were precisely White Sovereign King and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. The 2 of them had already transcended. They had left the river and reached the shore. Standing on the shore, White Sovereign King and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction looked at the countless lives within the river, as well as at Dongbu Shuang. You are acquainted with Xiu Qi Bai. Check the time-space of your past and find him. White Sovereign King asked. All right. Dongbua Shuang had grasped the complete time-space deity heart. Even within the river of time, he could observe the other lives that were sinking, and he could also observe himself. Behind him, there were layers upon layers of shadows. These shadows were the countless records from his birth until now. Amongst them, there was a record of him and Qiu Qi Bai. Chapter 603. The river of time was vast and unfathomable. The shadows went deep into the river, and there were even some that intersected with each other. Amidst these intersecting shadows, Dongbua Shuang saw countless familiar lives. Some were alive, and some were dead. Even Xiang Pangyun, Si Lianghong, Uncle Tong, Qing Lingshu, and the others could be seen clearly. Their lives were relatively short, and were inconspicuous in the river of time. Compared to Dongbua Shuiying's body, they were like little tadpoles. When I transcend in the future, I'll definitely revive Uncle Tong and the rest. Dongbua Shuiying thought, I'll let you guys have an even more exciting life. But it was foreseeable. Even if they were revived in the future, it would be hard for most of them to become deities. The possibility of becoming a world deity was extremely low, and their lifespan would be very short as well. Usually, they would live until their true deity heart crumbled, and they would die. Once their true deity heart crumbled, there was no way to revive them. Because the moment they revived, their true deity heart would crumble again. White Sovereign King, if it's possible, can you revive my good friend's wife? Dongbua Shuang asked. He was very clear of the relationship between Qiu Qi Bai and his true love. His wife is also a transcendent, a very weak one. Ha ha ha, all right, I'll revive her as well. White Sovereign King stood by the side of the void shore and agreed with a smile. Firstly, the blood demon scripture had helped him immensely, and secondly, reviving a weak transcendent was very easy. If it was reviving a deity, he would most likely hesitate. It's these two. Dongbua Shuiying's enormous body lightly pointed. He controlled the time-space energy to envelop Qiu Qi Bai and the other girl. That girl and Qiu Qi Bai had intersected many times. Qiu Qi Bai only ended his life in madness when Dongbua Shuiying killed the Howling Devil cult leader. As for that girl, she was whipped until she dissipated. But that was all Dongbua Shuiying could do. He could not revive them. Leave it to me. White Sovereign King was incomparably confident. He stood on the shore of the void and stretched out his hand. His arm expanded until it reached into the void river. With just a single hand, he easily grabbed Qiu Bai and that woman. Then, he forcefully moved them to the surface of the river of time. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. This was a river of time. Different depths represented different times. The deeper the river was, the more ancient it was. And the surface of the river represented the present. Under the protection of the White Sovereign King's right hand, Qiu Bai and his wife were forcefully shifted to the surface of the river. During the process of shifting, the entire river had formed a resistance. The mysterious power of the river of time was incomparably vast. Fortunately, Qiu Bai and his wife were very small, like little tadpoles. Moving them to the surface of the river produced very little resistance. The White Sovereign King was still relatively relaxed. The moment they moved to the surface of the river, it meant that the two of them had lived until now. What are they doing? In the distance, there was a figure that was tens of thousands of times larger than Qiu Bai and the rest, but only about 1,000th the size of Dongbua Shuiying. He raised his head and saw White Sovereign King and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction at the shore of the void. He also saw White Sovereign King extending his hand into the river of time to fish out the lives within. Is he reviving lives? This Stage 2 world deity had just comprehended the time-space deity heart, and was able to inspect the river of time. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, who was at the shore, sensed something and looked over. The Stage 2 world deity was so frightened that he immediately gave up on inspecting. His consciousness left the river of time, and his figure became muddle-headed once more. In midair, two figures appeared beside Dongbua Shuiying, White Sovereign King, and Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. The two figures were condensing. They were a snow-white-robed man and a black-robed woman. However, they were only soul bodies. The snow-white-robed man could still maintain his calm, but the black-robed woman's face was distorted. Her entire soul body was trembling. Amen? White Sovereign King frowned slightly. Because he was the one who saved them, these two lives had been shifted to the side of his true body. She seems to be unable to endure the memories? White Sovereign King immediately sent his energy into the black-robed woman's body. He easily flipped through her memories and forcefully sealed the final memory of her being tortured. Controlling the soul of a weak transcendent was simply too easy for the high and mighty White Sovereign King. After sealing the final memory, the black-robed woman regained her calm. Amen? Chichiobai and the woman, Wu Shi, opened their eyes and regained their consciousness. They saw each other. Little Shi? Chichiobai was extremely surprised. Chiobai. The black-robed woman was also filled with disbelief and excitement. Their final memories were also different. Chichiobai clearly remembered that he was used by an abyss sovereign called Howling Devil cult leader to cultivate his secret technique. Even after experiencing the terrifying torture, he still did not dissipate. It was just that he no longer had any memories of what happened after that. The black-robed woman remembered that she was constantly being tortured. Chichiobai was also being tortured. As for what happened after that, she did not know. What happened after that was actually an endless cycle of torture. This part was temporarily sealed. Didn't I already? The black-robed woman looked around. Chichiobai also looked to the side. The two of them were startled. Because right beside them were White Sovereign King, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, and Dongbua Shuiying. When they first saw these three, Chichiobai and the rest could only feel three boundless auras that were hard to fathom. The difference in the quality of life was too great. Fortunately, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction and the rest had completely retracted their auras. Otherwise, a slight aura impact would be enough to kill them. Closely following that, Chichiobai could clearly see that one of the three boundless auras was someone he recognized. Snow Eagle? Chichiobai was startled. In his memories, although the Dongbua Shuiying during the final war was very powerful, it was far from being comparable to the one in front of him. The feeling that Dongbua Shuiying gave him had already far surpassed that of the great demon god. It had also surpassed that abyss sovereign, Howling Devil cult leader, who had an extremely high status. Dongbua Shuiying, I have already revived the two of them from the river of time. White Sovereign King chuckled. The deal between us is more or less done. In a while I will send you out of the dark abyss. I will have to trouble White Sovereign King, Dongbua Shuiying said. There shouldn't be a need for me to personally reconstruct their fleshly bodies, right? Haha, if I were to personally act, I'm afraid that the energy of the dark abyss would be condensing their fleshly bodies. To you material realm beings, I'm afraid they don't really like the energy of the dark abyss, White Sovereign King said. Leave this to me, Dongbua Shuiying said. Reconstructing a fleshly body was still very simple. Oh right, that girl's willpower is relatively weak. The torment she experienced is something that even she can't handle. Thus, I have temporarily sealed a portion of her memories. As time passes, this portion of memories will gradually recover. With a gradual acceptance process, the effects on her will be much smaller, White Sovereign King said. Although White Sovereign King was cunning and ruthless, when it came to doing things, he would try his best to do it perfectly. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. Chichiobai and the black-robed girl heard it as well. Eternal Wind, sister-in-law? Dongbua Shuiying looked at Chichiobai and the black-robed girl. He chuckled. I will bring the two of you out of the dark abyss first. As for other matters, we can slowly talk about it when we reach the deity world. All right. Chichiobai nodded. His eyes were filled with gratitude. He looked at his wife and gently hugged her. Hugging the person he loved was something he had dreamt of for many years. He had finally achieved it. Chapter 604. The black-robed girl was also suspicious of the identity of Dongbua Shuiying, because she did not know him. But from the side she understood that the reason why she and Qiu Bai could be revived from the river of time was because of this Dongbu Shuiying. Feeling Qiu Bai hugging her, the black-robed girl revealed a faint smile. Her heart was filled with sweetness. This was also what she had been longing for. Old white ghosts, send them off. The deal is over, and I'll be leaving too, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction said. This time, I have to thank Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Dongbu Shuiying immediately expressed his gratitude. Without Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, Dongbu Shuiying did not dare to trust White Sovereign King. Ha! Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction laughed. He glanced at White Sovereign King, then turned and disappeared into the time-space tunnel. White Sovereign King glanced at Dongbu Shuiying and was too lazy to speak. He also knew that his reputation wasn't too good. Let's go! White Sovereign King shouted. Let's go! Dongbu Shuiying waved his hand, keeping Qiu Bai and his wife into his Eden treasure. Then, he followed White Sovereign King into the time-space tunnel to return. With White Sovereign King escorting them, the return journey was naturally much safer. Actually, with Dongbu Shuiying's current strength, as long as it wasn't a paragon, there was nothing that could threaten him. Even if it was that patrol Devil King, Dongbu Shuiying reckoned that he would only be able to suppress him. Hoo-hoo! Finally, they passed through the outermost layer of the dark abyss, passing through the blurry darkness. Following the time-space tunnel, Dongbu Shuiying felt that the will of the dark abyss, which represented destruction, darkness, and slaughter, had finally retreated. When they walked out of the time-space tunnel, they were already in the void. It was the territory of the deity world. Dongbu Shuiying. White Sovereign King walked out of the time-space tunnel and stood in the void. The corner of his lips curled upwards. This time, you were able to bring away the original copy of the Blood Demon scripture from my territory. However, don't be too complacent. You should focus on cultivating and be able to transcend the river of time as soon as possible. If he can't transcend, he'll only have a lifespan of 10 billion years. It would be a disgrace to me if a pitiful fellow who can't transcend took away the original copy of an ultimate technique from me. There's no need for Sovereign King to worry about this. Dongbu Shuiying replied calmly. The commander of the Army of Destruction was a Stage 4 world deity. He had told Dongbu Shuiying many times that the realm was the foundation. Dongbu Shuiying understood this as well. If he did not transcend, everything would be for naught. Sovereign King, let us bid farewell here, Dongbu Shuiying said. White Sovereign King nodded and turned to leave, once again returning to the dark abyss. Meanwhile, a Starfield flying ship appeared in front of Dongbu Shuiying. He stepped onto the Starfield flying ship and began traveling through time. Standing on the deck of the Starfield flying ship were Dongbu Shuiying, Qiu Bai, and the black-robed woman, Wu Shi. The two of them had reconstructed their fleshly bodies. To Dongbu Shuiying, reconstructing their fleshly bodies was as easy as lifting his hand. Who would have thought that I, Qiu Bai, would have such a day? Qiu Bai stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the colorful time-space tunnel around him. You've actually reconstructed your fleshly bodies and even come to the deity world. Little Shi is here as well. Qiu Bai. The black-robed woman smiled. Dongbu Shuiying was very happy to see this scene. In truth, Eternal Wind had always been living in torment. In the end, he was even tortured by Daer Hao for many years. Then, he was forced to cultivate the Blood Demon scripture by Howling Devil cult leader. In his previous life, Eternal Wind's life was too sullen. Even his true love, Wu Shi, was tortured to death by Daer Hao. It was a tragedy. Now that he could change everything, Dongbu Shuiying felt happy for Qiu Bai. Snow Eagle, I will remember this kindness, Qiu Bai said. However, I'm afraid that with your current strength and status, it will be hard for me to repay you. What are you talking about? Eternal Wind, where do you and your wife intend to go? To the Xia people's world? Or to the deity world? Dongbu Shuiying asked. The Xia people's world also has the Crimson Rock Mountain world. If you want to enter the Crimson Rock Mountain world, it will be easy. Let's go to the Xia people's world. Qiu Qibai looked at his wife. Little she and I have been away from our homeland for far too long. The black-robed woman smiled. All right. Dongbua Shuang nodded. The Starfield flying ship was extremely fast. When they reached their destination, Dongbua Shuang brought them directly into the material plane, the Xia people's world. In midair in the Xia people's world, the black-robed woman, Wu Shi, stood in midair, looking at the bustling and vast world. Her eyes brightened. Xia people, our homeland, we're back. Qiu Qibai revealed a smile. Then I'll be leaving first. I won't disturb the two of you any longer. Ha ha ha, if there's anything, just send a message to me. Dongbua Shuang laughed before taking a step and disappearing. Only then did Qiu Qibai and Wu Shi return to their own world, looking at each other. I have many things I wish to do, Qiu Qibai said. Me too, Wu Shi said. Qiu Bai, follow me. I'll bring you to a place. The two turned into streams of light, flying high up in the sky. Dongbua Shuang brought the true god weapon flying knife with him as he left the Xia people's world. With his current strength, and having refined the flying knife, he could naturally bring it with him. Who? The Starfield flying ship arrived at the Bloodshed God Palace. Dongbua Shuang was in a good mood. Other than the earth-shattering change in his combat power, the main reason was that he had helped Eternal Wind. Eternal Wind's innate talent was split into two when he was a transcendent. Even so, he was still able to grasp hold of a grade 2 true meaning. His innate talent is extremely high. It's just that I don't know how far he'll be able to walk after experiencing so many tribulations. Dongbua Shuang was looking forward to it. In the entire history of the Xia people, in terms of innate talent, other than himself and Jingqiu, who was a stage 3 world deity reincarnated, Qiu Qibai was the next best. Even if his own children were outstanding, they were still slightly lacking when compared to Qiu Qibai. This was because his children had been nurtured by him and Jingqiu since they were young, and the cultivation resources they received were many times better than what Qiu Qibai had received in the past. As soon as he landed in the Bloodshed God Palace, Dongbua Shuang rushed towards the Crimson Stone courtyard. Suddenly, a voice transmitted over. Snow Eagle, come over here. A voice resounded by his ears. Teacher? Dongbua Shuang immediately confirmed it, and rushed over to where his teacher was. It was the courtyard of a wooden house. Within the wooden house, there was only the crimson-robed blood blade standing there. The black bird was nowhere to be seen. Dongbua Shuang walked in from outside the courtyard. Stepping forward, he respectfully said, Disciple greets teacher. The disturbance you've caused this time is not small. Bloodblade smiled. Fighting 1 against 3, killing one of the powerful existences from the abyss, and even bringing the original copy of the first half of the Blood Demon scripture out of the abyss. Haha, those 3 rulers from the abyss must feel embarrassed. Even though I've been paying attention to this matter, it's not good for me to interfere. The moment I do, those 3 rulers from the abyss will definitely interfere. Disciple understands, Dongbua Shuang replied. The Army of Destruction's ultimate art is truly impressive. You have such strength after reaching the 4th firmament, praised Bloodblade. Your current strength is already considered top-notch amongst the powerful existences. Your strength is close to that of a supremacy. Dongbua Shuang agreed with this point. The stronger you are, the more responsibilities you have to bear, said Bloodblade with a smile. As the Bloodshed Tavern owner, you are naturally responsible for more areas. Dongbua Shuang immediately received a message. It was a message from the Bloodshed Tavern's internal system, informing him of the changes in the areas he was responsible for. Yes, Dongbua Shuang immediately responded. He could bear this bit of responsibility. With your current strength, you should understand some things, said Bloodblade calmly. The path of cultivation is unavoidable. If you don't fight for opportunities, you will fall into the hands of your opponents. Your opponents will become stronger and trample on you. Falling behind once, falling behind twice. If this continues, you will only be left further and further behind. Thus, the path of cultivation must be fought for. You must pay attention to both internal and external resources. This disciple understands. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Because he had obtained the 3 special treasures left behind by that venerable who had been sealed in ice, the scarlet bracelet and the other 2 items. The scarlet bracelet and the other 2 items all contained the Tao of spacetime, which allowed him to comprehend the spacetime deity heart with fewer obstacles. If not for these 3 treasures, it would have been normal for him to spend hundreds of thousands of years to become a stage 4 world deity. It was also because of the true God weapon, the flying knife, that his understanding of the world-profound mysteries within the slaughter and mirage had greatly increased, allowing him to master the extreme annihilation mysterious body much faster. His spear secret skill, destruction, had also greatly increased in power. Otherwise, if his spear technique wasn't strong enough, he might not have been able to escape from the 3 of them. These were all resources. One's own internal cultivation was important, but external resources could be used as a catalyst. All sorts of battles have divided the deity world and dark abyss into many superpowers. Many powerful existences have chosen to rely on me for the sake of survival, Bloodblade said. However, I can only ensure the safety of their avatars within the Bloodshed God Palace territory. As for fighting and killing outside, I will not participate in the battles between ordinary powerful existences. Pangyi, Destruction, and Bamboo Mountain are all paragons, so it would not be good for them to participate. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Other than the many independent powerful existences under me, there are also the monarchs of the 5 directions, Bloodblade said. The monarchs of the 5 directions? Dongbua Shuang felt puzzled. He truly did not know of this. The monarchs of the 5 directions must have combat power close to that of a paragon. I will also do my best to groom them. When fighting outside, the many powerful existences of my Bloodshed God Palace will usually see them as their leaders, Bloodblade said. However, there are currently only 2 monarchs of the 5 directions, Gu Tsang and Bei Hu. Dongbua Shuang knew of these 2. Monarch Gu Tsang was his senior disciple brother, and had a combat power close to that of a paragon. Palace Master Bei Hu was an extremely ancient powerful existence, and had a combat power close to that of a paragon. The other powerful existences do not have enough combat power, so they naturally do not have the qualifications to take up this role. Bloodblade looked at Dongbua Shuang. Even though you are only a stage 4 deity, your combat power is sufficient. Thus, I hope that you will become the 3rd monarch of the 5 directions. From today onwards, the group of powerful existences of the Bloodshed God Palace will also be led by the 3 of you to fight against other superpowers, Bloodblade said. The more responsibilities you have, the more you will obtain. This will also be of great help to your cultivation and transcendence. Dongbua Shuang immediately replied. Yes, this disciple understands. End of this chapter. Today was the 1st chapter. Tomorrow, he would begin the 20th chapter, Monarch Dongbua. Chapter 605. Bloodblade chuckled and nodded. He was quite satisfied with this disciple of his, Dongbua Shuang. Over the long years, he had seen many stage 4 world deities with extremely high innate talent. He had taught quite a few outstanding ones, of which Monarch Gu Zhang and Monarch Green had successfully transcended. But there were very few who could make him satisfied. The majority were too arrogant. Confidence and arrogance were just a single step apart. Any expert should be confident, but many had become arrogant. Arrogance would lead to blindness, and blindness would make it hard for them to walk further. Bloodblade felt that amongst his disciples, the one he was most satisfied with was Monarch Green, and the next would be Dongbua Shuang. He is so calm and reserved. I believe it shouldn't be hard for him to transcend, and there is hope for him to open his own Tao in the future. Bloodblade thought. Snow Eagle, Bloodblade said. The monarchs of the 5 directions have their own fiefdoms. Fiefdom? Dongbua Shuang was startled. Amen. Bloodblade nodded. The cosmos has been reborn ever since the Great Apocalypse, and there are many strange places in the vast deity world that are of great help to cultivation. Within the territory of my Bloodshed God Palace, there are 5 such places, and I have designated them as fiefdoms for the monarchs of the 5 directions. Currently, 2 of them have owners, and you can choose the other 3. Dongbu Shuang listened attentively. Of the 5 places, Corpse Hiding Cave and Ice Origin Star already have owners. The other 3 are Black Fog Sea, Fire God Tree, and Lightning Island. Bloodblade said. Corpse Hiding Cave? Dongbu Shuang was speechless. This name made him feel uncomfortable. It was one of the 5 fiefdoms, and it had already been chosen. Teacher, is the Corpse Hiding Cave a treasure ground? Dongbu Shuang could not help but ask. Bloodblade chuckled. The Corpse Hiding Cave looks ordinary on the surface, just a few meters wide. But once you enter, you will find yourself in an Eden world. There are many corpses within this Eden world. It is an ancient battlefield from the second cosmos epoch, and there are 2 ruler corpses within. Don't you think it's a treasure trove? That place is very suitable for your senior brother Gutsun, so he chose it. There are 2 sovereign corpses? Dongbu Shuang was slightly shocked. However, if he had to choose, he would definitely not choose a place filled with corpses. After all, this was his fief. You can't choose even if you want to. I'll tell you about the other 3 places in detail. Bloodblade said. The Black Fog Sea is a sea of black fog that appears in space. The black fog is formed naturally by the universe, and once you enter it, you will see countless illusions. The deeper you go, the stronger the illusions. Even with my strength, I was barely able to reach the source of the black fog. Those who are weak will probably sink into it and never wake up. Illusion? Dongbu Shuang nodded. The Fire God Tree is a huge tree, and its roots are rooted in the void. It is 3,900 billion miles tall, and its entire body is burning with flames that will never extinguish. There are many who want to come here to cultivate. Paragon Huiqing, who is on good terms with you, had once gone there to cultivate. Of course, his master, Primal Master, had to pay a huge price before I allowed him to cultivate for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, I chased him away. Bloodblade chuckled. The last place is the Thunderbolt Island. It is a place similar to the Temporal Island, and is also a void island. The Temporal Island is located in a unique space, and is hard to reach. As for the Thunderbolt Island, it is filled with countless thunderbolts, and all sorts of thunderbolts. Choose a place. Bloodblade said. Dongbu Shuang pondered for a moment. The Black Fog Sea. You chose this place? Bloodblade chuckled. Seems like you value the mysteries of your world the most. Dongbu Shuang chuckled. Nothing can be hidden from Master. Black Fog Sea, even Bloodblade could barely reach the source of the Black Fog Sea. Those who were weaker would sink into the illusory world of the Black Fog Sea. This illusory world had 2 aspects. One was illusory, and the other was to outline a world. It was closer to the Mirage world, and in addition to the Tao of Mirage and his true god weapon Flying Knife, Dongbu Shuang naturally had to study it carefully. The world is good at containing, and is indeed suitable for you to cultivate. If your realm is high enough, you can use the world deity heart to truly contain all the profound mysteries of the laws of the world, forming the complete laws of the world. At that time, you will be able to transcend from the river of time. Bloodblade nodded in praise. Dongbu Shuang nodded. The hardest part of transcending was to integrate all the deity hearts into a complete entity. As for comprehending all the deity hearts? To some stage 4 world deities, it was extremely difficult, as they had absorbed faith energy. However, Dongbu Shuang had never relied on faith stones. He had only cultivated for a short period of time, and thus had very little karma. Comprehending the karma deity heart was also an easy matter. He had long comprehended the extremely difficult substance deity heart, and he believed that it wouldn't take long for him to comprehend the boundless deity heart as well. With the world deity heart, he would be able to perfectly integrate them into a single entity, forming the laws of the world. That would be a great success. Regarding transcending, you have to pay attention to a few things. Firstly, you have to pay more attention to the complete laws of the world. You can't crazily ponder over some secret skill for the sake of power. Chapter 606. Flowers and plants will wither, the world will be born and destroyed, and the universe will rise and fall. The period from the birth of life to the great apocalypse can be considered as an epic. Bloodblade looked at Dongwu Shuang. Just like how the mortal world and the material plane can only last for a short period of time, the length of every epoch is different. If we have too many life forms, the burden on the universe will be too great, or if we destroy too much, this epoch will be shorter, and we will enter the great apocalypse faster. Dongwu Shuang listened carefully. Strictly speaking, this epoch of ours is the 8th epoch. Bloodblade sighed. It can be considered an ordinary epoch. According to the number of experts that were born, the most dazzling epoch was the 3rd epoch. The 3rd epoch gave birth to the 2 most impressive existences. One was the owner of Lake Heart Island, and the other was the devil ancestor. The 8th epoch? Dongwu Shuang nodded slightly. That's all in the past. Now, we can only find traces of them in some ruins. Bloodblade said. Alright, the most important thing for you to do now is to focus on cultivation and transcend as soon as possible. With your talent, if you are fast enough, you should be able to transcend in 1,000,000 years. Dongwu Shuang instantly felt that his master had high hopes for him. Transcend in 1,000,000 years? Disciple will do his best, Dongwu Shuang said. Haha. Bloodblade didn't think too much about it. Instead, he changed the topic. I originally wanted to choose a suitable treasure for you after exploring the ancient cave dwelling. But your strength improved faster than I expected. Now you're already close to the Paragon realm. You're not suited to chase after strength now. You should grasp the laws of heaven and earth as soon as possible. I really don't have any treasures to give you at the moment. Leave this treasure with me for now. When you transcend, I will give it to you. This will greatly increase your chances of opening your Tao. Bloodblade smiled. Disciple is not in a hurry. The stronger disciple is, the better the treasure's master will give me. Dongwu Shuang smiled. All right. Bloodshed God Emperor laughed. Go. Go busy yourself with your matters. This disciple will take his leave. Dongwu Shuang bowed and retreated. Bloodblade smiled and nodded as he watched Dongwu Shuang leave. In the long years of cultivation, his loved ones would gradually pass away. Instead, the master and disciple would accompany each other for a longer time. To Bloodblade and the others, the relationship between master and disciple would gradually become the most important emotion in their hearts. Of course, those heartless people were another matter. Swoosh. After leaving his master's place, Dongwu Shuang flew towards the Crimson Stone courtyard. Flying high up in the sky, they could not travel through space here, so they could only fly slowly. While flying, Dongwu Shuang was carefully reading through the large amount of information given to him by his master. With the identity of the Bloodblade, the information he provided was much more detailed, allowing Dongwu Shuang to have a more detailed understanding of the entire universe. So this is the reason why Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master couldn't transcend. No wonder the general of the Army of Destruction regretted it so much. Dongwu Shuang thought. Normal cultivation. He should be able to comprehend the deity hearts one by one after reaching the 4th level of heaven. In the end, after accumulating enough knowledge, he instantly comprehended all the profound mysteries of the laws of heaven and earth into a complete whole. The laws of heaven and earth. From then on, he became a true god. After becoming a true god, they researched secret skills or created their own secret arts, constantly researching the profound mysteries of the laws. Finally, one day, they comprehended a Tao that was above the laws of the world. After opening up one's own Tao, one would become a venerable. The Tao he had established was still very immature and needed to be constantly perfected. Once this Tao reached a truly eternal level, he would be a sovereign. For example, Bloodblade had opened up the Bloodblade Path, Shadow Path, and Destruction Path. The Temporal Island Lord had opened the Tao of Spacetime. For example, the Spacetime Tao. In order to establish this Tao, one had to have a deeper understanding of the space-time laws and profundities. By combining them, one would have to comprehend even more profound space-time laws and profundities to form the space-time Tao. Therefore, in order to open the Tao of space-time, one did not need to understand the splitting heaven deity heart, karma deity heart, etc. There was no need to understand the laws of the world. Therefore, in theory, a stage 4 world deity could open their own Tao if their realm was deep enough. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was a stage 4 world deity who had yet to grasp the complete laws of the world when he first opened the Destruction Lightning Tao. From then on, he had the power of a paragon. However, he did not transcend. According to the records, Dongbua Shuang thought to himself, in our current cosmos epoch, only Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master was able to open his Tao at stage 4. According to the information provided by Master, the number of stage 4 world deities who could do this can be counted with one's fingers. That was indeed the case. Those powerful existences had cultivated for a long period of time, but there were very, very few who could reach the paragon level. And those who could open their own Tao were even rarer. Clearly, opening one's own Tao was much harder than grasping the complete laws of the world. Under normal circumstances, a stage 4 world deity would not open his Tao. But if such a genius were to appear, it would instead be troublesome. Dongbua Shuang sighed, wanting to transcend would be even harder. What was transcendence? Transcendence was to transcend the river of time and ascend the riverbank. Only with the help of the complete laws of the world could one break free from the restrictions of the river of time. But the strength of life forms in the river of time was different. Mortals were weak, transcendents were weak, and deities and world deities were getting stronger. For instance, Dongbua Ying's body was extremely huge within the river of time, much bigger than an ordinary stage 4 world deity. The bigger the body, the stronger the restrictions of the river of time. Therefore, even if one were to revive, the bigger the body, the harder it would be to revive. After all, it was too heavy and impossible to fish out. As for Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master? As a stage 4 world deity who had opened his own Tao, his body was 100 times bigger than Dongbua Ying's. With such a huge body, even if he grasped the complete laws of the world, he would not be able to break free from the restrictions of the river of time. He had to obtain even stronger laws of the world, and he could only become a ruler. Once he became a ruler, the Tao he opened would also be perfect and eternal. Only with this Tao could he transcend. For a stage 4 world deity to open a Tao, he can only transcend after becoming a ruler. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master and the commander of the Army of Destruction are truly pitiful. No wonder they say that one cannot be too obsessed with power and pursue secret skills. Ordinary cultivators do not have such problems. I can be considered to be quite talented, and I have always been pursuing the power of my secret skills. Who knows, one day, I might have a stroke of luck and open my own Tao. That would also be troublesome. Dongbua Shuang grinned. He knew that the chances of this happening were extremely low. After all, there were only a handful of such people across the many epochs. Even if he deliberately pursued power, he might not be able to do so. Otherwise, Nine Yang Palace Head, Purple-Gowned Hex Emperor, Patrol Devil King, and the others would not have been unable to become paragons after so many years. Some ordinary world deities thought that Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master relied on an absolute art to become so heaven-defying. Dongbua Shuang shook his head, but now, it seems like it was a huge joke. Actually, he had long suspected this. Why was Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master so dazzling? Was his absolute art so special? Could it be that the absolute arts of Blood Blade and the other rulers were inferior to Bamboo Mountain Prefecture? Now that he was stronger, Dongbua Shuang finally understood the secret behind it. Chapter 607. Other than the information about the Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master being unable to transcend, there were two other pieces of information that caught Dongbua Shuang's attention. One of them was that, according to his master, there was another power hidden in the vast universe besides the 5 sovereigns of the God world and the 3 sovereigns of the abyss. This power was extremely mysterious, and the number of experts they had was extremely small. Very few people knew of their existence, and some venerables probably didn't even know of their existence. This faction had a unique characteristic. Their members had no karmic ties. No karmic lines? Dongbua Shuang was a little shocked. It was common to use karmic connections to investigate someone. Even his master, the Blood Blade, had karmic connections. For example, he and his master were connected by karma. There was actually an expert who didn't have a karmic line. According to the reports, this was an extremely well-hidden secret of the entire universe, and only the juggernauts knew about it. Some hegemons didn't even tell their subordinates. Of course, Bloodblade still told the disciples and friends he valued. This matter is extremely special and cannot be leaked. If you discover an enemy without a karmic link, inform me immediately. Bloodblade also emphasized this in the report. I didn't expect this. Dongbua Shuang sighed. To think that there would be such a mysterious force hidden in the universe. But the chances of me running into them should be very low. Put it aside for now. Dongbua Shuang paid attention to the last interesting piece of information. Primal Master is really bored. Dongbua Shuang revealed a smile. His master had actually given him a copy of the Cosmos Deity Demon List. The Cosmos Deity Demon List was a list created by the most aloof and ancient ruler, the Primal Master, out of boredom. He gathered information from all over the universe and created this list. The list contained the 100 strongest cultivators in the entire cosmos. He gave them a ranking. Every time the Primal Master decided on a ranking, he would only give it to the experts on the list. The record on this list was Cosmos Deity Demon List, Rank 1, Bloodblade 2nd, Abyss Progenitor 3rd, Primeval Master 4th, Purgatory Ruler 5th, Temporal Island Lord 6th, Pantheon Temple Master 7th, Empress Qian He number 8, Pangyi number 9, Bloody Dominator 10th place, Monarch Qing 11th, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, number 99, Forefather Fierce Tyrant No. 100, Star Falling Monarch. The leaderboard was purely a ranking without any explanation. Pangyi is actually ranked 8th. One rank higher than the Bloody Dominator? Dongbua Shuang was speechless when he saw the Cosmos Deity Demon List. He had never heard of Pangyi becoming a ruler, but Pangyi was ranked 8th. In the entire God Realm and Abyss, Monarch Green, who was recognized as the closest to a ruler, was ranked 10th. But my ranking isn't there. Dongbua Shuang mumbled inwardly. In terms of strength, he was definitely stronger than Forefather Fierce Tyrant, and some other almighty existences. I have just broken through this time, and that's why I revealed my true strength. I should have to wait until the next ranking list is released before I can be listed on it. ********* Crimson Stone Courtyard. Father. As soon as Dongbua Shuang appeared in the cave abode, his daughter, Dongbua Qin Yao, immediately rushed over to greet him. Snow Eagle. Jing Qiu and Monarch Mo Shui appeared as well. Father, I heard that you fought against 3 almighty existences by yourself, and even killed one? Dongbua Qin Yao's eyes lit up. She looked forward to such a scene. Dongbua Shuang looked at his daughter and chuckled. I only killed an avatar. It is common for almighty existences to die in a battle, but most of them are just avatars. It is rare for both true body and avatar to be destroyed. Good son-in-law, the scene of dark abyss surrounding you was huge. So many abyss sovereigns made a move, and even Patrol Devil King and Emperor Chi-Hai made a move, and there was even the legendary White Sovereign King behind them. It is already amazing that you could come back alive. Many of my old friends said that the chances of His Highness Dongbua coming out alive is very low. It's a pity that they guessed wrongly. Monarch Mo Shui praised. Dongbua Shuang chuckled and said, Oh right, Master allowed me to become one of the 5 monarchs, and even gave me a conferred land. Let us prepare to set off. 5 monarchs? Monarch Mo Shui, Jing Qiu, Dongbua, and Qin Yao were all puzzled. It is only an official position, a rather special one. Dongbua Shuang said. Even though it is said to be one of the 5 monarchs, in reality, there are only two of them. They are Palace Master Bei Hu and my senior apprentice brother Gu Zong. Palace Master Bei Hu and Monarch Gu Zong? Even amongst the almighty existences, they are incredible existences. Monarch Mo Shui immediately understood that these 5 monarchs were incredible. There is a conferred land? Jing Qiu was also puzzled. And in Black Fog Sea. Dongbua Shuang said. Of course, I have to go and rebuild it. Oh right, where is Yuer? Yuer has been stuck at a bottleneck, unable to break through, and is wandering outside. I have already sent a message to Yuer, telling him to come back as soon as possible. However, he said that he still needs to delay for a few more days, and should be back in half a month. Jing Qiu said. How about this, let him go directly to Black Fog Sea. Dongbua Shuang said. We will not wait for him. On the same day, Dongbua Shuang brought his wife and a group of people to board the Starfield flying ship, heading towards Black Fog Sea. That is Black Fog Sea? Dongbua and Qin Yao's eyes were very bright, looking excitedly at the vast black fog and the starry sky. I heard that there is a huge array enveloping this place, making it impossible to get close. Monarch Mo Shui said. Dongbua Shuang said. You guys wait here. South. He directly tore through the sky and left alone. Jing Qiu, Monarch Mo Shui, Dongbua, and Qin Yao all stood on the deck of the flying ship, watching the scene from afar. They only saw Dongbua Shuang easily passing through the array, arriving at the edge of Black Fog Sea. Let's begin. Dongbua Shuang looked at the endless rolling black fog by his side. This would be his territory, and if he became a powerful existence, he would most likely stay here for a long time. Powerful existences would all have their own territories, and even the Bloodshed God Emperor had his own place, the Bloodshed God Palace. After all, he was most familiar with the place he built. After all, it could be continuously strengthened over the long years. Hong Long Long. Dongbua Shuang directly activated the world energy. With his current attainments in the aspect of the world, he could control the world energy within a range of 3 trillion kilometers. The world energy could transform into the myriad existences. The prerequisite was to understand the structure of matter. Condense! Following Dongbua Shuang's thought, one could see the endless land within 3 trillion kilometers being formed. The land was thick, and the deeper one went, the denser it became. All sorts of rocks, metals, and even more unique precious materials were formed. Naturally, these precious materials were only valued by transcendents or ordinary deities. After all, the precious materials that could be dissected by Dongbua Shuang were all relatively ordinary. By transforming the world energy, he could have as many as he wanted. A huge piece of land began to appear, surrounding the Black Fog Sea. The Black Fog Sea occupied roughly half of the land. On the land, there were rivers surging. Vegetation grew, and the mountains rose and fell. The scenery was beautiful. At the very center of the continent was a vast chain of palaces. Some were for guests, some were for guards, some were for disciples, some were for animals from the immortal world, and some were for juniors and disciples to cultivate, go on adventures, train, and so on. There were also places for him to enter closed-door cultivation, places for him to research secret techniques, and places to receive guests. Even so, Dongbua Shuang's palaces were relatively ordinary when compared to the territories of other powerful existences. After all, he was too young, and the number of people following him was relatively few. Thus, the number of palaces he needed was relatively few. There are also arrays. Although Dongbua Shuang was not that formidable in the field of arrays, he had researched the space-time array within the Scarlet Wristband, as well as the Tao within the True God Weapon Flying Knife. There were also all sorts of arrays for cultivating absolute arts. Naturally, this allowed Dongbua Shuang to reach a relatively high level of attainment in the field of arrays. He also began to set up a large number of arrays wantonly. The Mirage Array, Space-Time Array, and Material Array were especially common. The Material Array mainly borrowed some of the profound mysteries of the Extreme Annihilation mysterious body. Although it was far from being as sturdy as his black armor, only stage 4 world deities would be able to shake it. The space-time array also caused the space in many places to change. The Mirage array borrowed some of the profound mysteries of the Tao of Mirage. It was even more mysterious and unfathomable. Even stage 4 world deities could get lost in it. Although it seemed fast, in reality, Dongbua Shuang had spent more than 3 days before he finally completed the construction of his territory. Only after it was done did he inform all his subordinates in the East Region City Supervisor Envoy residence to come over. Now that he had become a monarch of the 5 directions, he naturally would no longer hold the position of Supervisor Envoy. This shall be our home from now on. Dongbua Shuang, his wife Jing Qiu, his daughter Qin Yao, and monarch Mo Shui were walking together on the spacious plaza, looking at the distant chain of palaces. This is the simplest form you can have at the very beginning. If you have any ideas for your own residences, feel free to tell me. Dongbua Shuang laughed. His own territory would naturally continue to strengthen as he grew stronger. Good son-in-law, the news of your promotion has already spread. When the time comes, there will probably be many who will come to pay a visit to you, Monarch Dongbua. Monarch Mo Shui laughed. You have also just constructed a fief and opened a residence. It would be best if you organize a banquet and invite many powerful existences. Amen. Dongbua Shuang nodded his head. Obtaining a fief and opening a residence was a huge matter for cultivators. Hence, it was indeed necessary to organize a banquet. Father-in-law, you should be familiar with such matters. I'll leave it to you. Dongbua Shuang laughed. Good. Monarch Mo Shui laughed as he agreed. Contacting powerful existences from all over was also a matter of face. Before reincarnating, being able to have such a face made him extremely happy. Jingqiu said from the side. Snow Eagle, you still have to get people from the Bloodshed God Palace to hurry over and construct a time-space teleportation array here. All right. Dongbua Shuang nodded his head. Without a time-space teleportation array, it would be troublesome for those who were weaker and did not have a starfield flying ship. For example, his own son Dongbua Yu did not have a starfield flying ship. Suddenly, a voice resounded in Dongbua Shui Ying's ears. Dongbua, I have just slightly modified this Cosmos Deity Demon list. This is something that I created in my free time. I will only inform the cultivators on the list. Primal Master's voice was still very familiar to Dongbua Shuang, and he immediately recognized it. Following which, the newest Cosmos Deity Demon list was sent over. Chapter 608. The identity of the Primal Master had always been a secret. Many Stage 4 world deities did not even know of the existence of this ruler. Amongst the rulers, he was the most low-profile and the most transcendent one. At the same time, he was also the most ancient one. Coupled with the fact that the Cosmos Deity Demon list that he created was only given to the experts that were on the list, the reputation of the Cosmos Deity Demon list was small, and very few people knew about it. In the vast universe, only the true peak existences knew about it. Dongbua Shuang watched carefully. First, Bloodblade second, Abyss Progenitor third, Primeval Master, number 8, Peng Yi number 9, Bloody Dominator 10th place, Monarch Qing 11th, Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction No. 12, Monarch Hex Cricket 13th, Water Demon King 14th place, White Sovereign King number 15, The Ascetic Rank 16, Purgatory Great Commander 17th place, Paragon Huiching number 18, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master 19th, Mysterious North Imperial Empress, number 44, Patrol Demon King No. 45 Pan Yuno. 46, Blind Old Man, 50th place, Purple Gown Hex Emperor No. 51, Hall Master Bei Huno. 52, Emperor Dong Bo, number 55, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament number 56, Lord Prison Ocean number 57, Nine Yang Palace Head, 100th, Forefather Vicious Tyrant. The names on the list were all titles. Very few people called them by their real names. Only Peng Yi and Pan Yu were direct names. Peng Yi was a little special. Back then, he had accepted disciples wantonly, and was completely devoted to teaching. He was also very peaceful and had even publicly announced that he would abandon all titles and could directly call him by his name. As for Pan Yu, he was a powerful existence that rose up during the earliest period of the universe. He was originally an ordinary dog beast that cultivated step by step. After becoming a powerful existence, he had a good relationship with Monarch Hex Cricket. Later on, when Monarch Hex Cricket became a paragon, the two of them seemed to have a conflict and parted ways, rarely interacting with each other. In the vast universe, his strength is ranked in the top 100. Dongbu Shuang sighed in admiration. I never expected myself to be ranked 52nd, higher than the 9-Yang Palace Head, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, and a bunch of other supreme existences. He was ranked 52nd. It was considered a very high ranking. His ranking was almost the same as the purple-robed Mage Emperor. But I think I still have many weaknesses when it comes to secret combat techniques. Dongbu Shuang pondered and said, for example, the 9-Yang Palace Head also has an absolute art. Why am I ranked above him? Is it because of the true God weapon and the huge advantage of defense? Dongbu Shuang guessed. He had not brought the true God weapon Flying Dagger into the Darkness Abyss, so he had not used it. But what kind of status did the Primal Master have? He should have known that if he joined the Army of Destruction, he would naturally have a true God-level weapon. A true God-level weapon could increase his power. When considering the ranking, the Primal Master would definitely include the true God weapon. The 9-Yang Palace Head did not have a true God weapon. In addition to his heaven-defying defense, even a Paragon realm existence like the White Sovereign King, who specialized in slaughter, would only be able to damage the surface of his armor. This kind of defense was also his greatest advantage. It was probably because all of these factors were taken into account that he was given such a ranking. At the same time that the Primal Master imparted this Cosmos Deity Demon list to Dongbu Shuang, he also imparted it to other existences on the list. All of them discovered the changes in the list. Because it had not been long since the previous list was created, the most obvious difference was the appearance of Dongbu Shuang. He had caused the rest of the list to move back by 1 rank, and the Monarch of Starfall had been kicked out of the list. Monarch Dongbu? That's that His Highness Dongbu Shuang. I've heard that God Emperor made him one of the 5 monarchs of the Bloodshed God Palace. He actually managed to rank 52nd so quickly. His senior disciple brother Monarch Gu Zhang is only ranked 49th. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor, who was currently cultivating under the tutelage of the Primal Master, praised. He did not care that his ranking was slightly higher. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor was different from others. He did not care about absolute arts. Instead, he valued the various cultivation paths. Thus, even though he was ranked 50th, he had accumulated a great deal of experience. He specialized in many different paths, and any path would allow him to open his own Dao. It was not impossible for him to open several Daos in the future. I hope he doesn't pursue strength too much. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor chuckled. Paragon Huiqing, who was seated by the side, glared at him. Purple-gowned, don't say that about my brother Dongbu. With his cultivation speed, he would most likely transcend not long after. Don't let him transcend before you become a paragon. He is a member of the Army of Destruction. The moment he transcends, he has hopes of cultivating the absolute art of the Army of Destruction to an even more profound level. By then, he would most likely be able to fight against paragons. This isn't him being formidable. It's the absolute art created by the Lake Heart Island Master that is formidable. It's an absolute art created by the strongest existences across many epochs. It's normal for it to have such power. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor said. Humph, he's not formidable. Paragon Huiqing was slightly annoyed. The Destruction Eden is right there. If you have the ability, you should go and give it a try. See if you can join the Army of Destruction. In our Cosmos epoch, other than Pang Yi, only Brother Dongbu has done it. Isn't this strength? Purple-gowned Hex Emperor was startled. That's right. Although there weren't many who knew about the Destruction Eden, there were still some who knew about it at the peak. However, they had all failed in their attempts. Only Pang Yi and Dongbu Shuiying had succeeded. It's my fault. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor laughed. To be able to become a member of the Army of Destruction, it is indeed strength. That's right. Paragon Huiqing said. Oh right, Brother Dongbu has just informed me that he will be holding an opening banquet 3 months later. Are you going? I won't be going. I've gained a lot from this trip to the ancient cave dwelling. It's better for me to stay here and think quietly, searching for that bit of inspiration. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor said. Help me bring the gift over. Also help me inform Dongbu Shuiying. I really don't wish to be distracted now. All right, I understand. Paragon Huiqing nodded. He knew the temper of this new junior brother of his. Purple-gowned Hex Emperor loved to cultivate and research. It was normal for him to cultivate for 10 billion years in one go. He had gained a lot from this trip to the ancient cave dwelling. Naturally, he wasn't willing to be distracted. All the pinnacle experts in this vast universe knew of Dongbu Shuiying. From this day onwards, Dongbu Shuiying had also entered their circle. Although the main purpose of this opening banquet was to invite his father-in-law, it was not a simple matter. However, those with higher statuses like Hall Master Bei Hu and Monarch Gu Zhang were personally invited by Dongbu Shuiying. Paragons like Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master and Paragon Huiqing were personally invited by Dongbu Shuiying. Regardless of whether they came or not, he had to invite them first. Dongbu Shuiying had even personally invited a powerful existence, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament has an old grudge with Jingqiu. Jingqiu wasn't wrong in this matter. However, against a powerful existence who has no attachments and is extremely proficient in the art of escaping, where even paragons find it hard to kill, there's no need to continue fighting. Dongbu Shuiying thought. This is also a chance to resolve this. People like Old Ancestor Golden Firmament who had no attachments were the hardest to deal with. He might not be able to do anything to him, but he could definitely deal with Jingqiu. Unless Jingqiu continued to hide in his nest. However, he couldn't do anything to him. The other party's art of escaping was too powerful. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, I'm Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying didn't have the other party's transmission imprint. Thus, he directly used the karmic connection to transmit a message to Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. Chapter 609. Dongbu Shuiying? Why did you come looking for me after being listed on the Cosmos Deity Demon list by Primal Master? Forefather Golden Firmament transmitted back with a sneer. Oh, I almost forgot. Your ranking is above mine. Dongbu Shuiying felt his heart clench. This Forefather Golden Firmament's tone was not right. Why were the Fierce Five of the deity world called the Fierce Five and not the Five Saints? It was because they were famous for their savagery. Even their leader, Pang Yi, was famous for his savagery. After all, they were born as deity world lifeforms, and were innately savage. It was only later that Pang Yi gradually changed. His greatest turning point was when he was heavily injured by a single punch from Monarch Green. Currently, Pang Yi had become extremely peaceful. There was no news of him becoming a ruler, but Primal Master had ranked him higher than one of the 3 rulers of the Abyss, Bloody Ruler. However, Pang Yi was peaceful, and the other 4 were still savage. With Pang Yi's current status, he would naturally not cause any more trouble. Only 4 of the Fierce Five remained, and these 4 were led by Forefather Golden Firmament. Forefather Golden Firmament had worked hard for the absolute art. Heart Sword Diagram. For hundreds of billions of years, and had even obtained 4 incomplete pieces of the diagram. The final incomplete piece of the Heart Sword Diagram was located in a ruin which he and his companions had worked hard to decipher. At that time, Jingqiu had unintentionally obtained it without experiencing any danger. Forefather Golden Firmament had long gone mad from anger. With his escaping skills, if he could obtain the complete and extremely powerful Heart Sword Diagram, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament was confident that he would have a chance to compete with Patrol Devil Lord and the others. If he was lucky, he might even be inspired by the Heart Sword Diagram, and open up his own Tao. It was not impossible. But no matter what, this absolute art was lacking the final bit, and all his efforts were wasted. Forefather Golden Firmament originally guessed that Jingqiu had failed in her reincarnation, and could only throw it to the back of his mind. But a few years ago, he received news that Dongbui Shuang had entered the Lake Heart Island and disregarded everything to save Monarch Mo Shui. Furthermore, Jingqiu and Monarch Mo Shui were both staying in the Crimson Stone courtyard of the Bloodshed God Palace. More importantly, Jingqiu was actually a stage 4 world deity. Yu Jingqiu, who came from the material realm, had actually reached the 4th heavenly layer before Dongbui Shuang. With such a fast speed, it probably surpassed the record of reaching the 4th heaven in history. He heard it again. Jingqiu was an expert in swordsmanship? Patriarch Golden Firmament was no fool. With a little speculation, he understood that Jingqiu must have reincarnated. In addition to her proficiency in sword techniques and her relationship with Monarch Mo Shui, she must be the eldest daughter of Monarch Mo Shui. Patriarch Golden Firmament. Dongbui Shuang was very calm as he sent a karmic voice transmission. I have no other intentions. It's just that Master has just conferred me the title of one of the 5 imperial monarchs. In the future, I will be residing in the Black Fog Sea. Therefore, I will be establishing my manor here. Naturally, I will be holding an opening banquet and inviting all my friends. The banquet will be held in 3 months' time. I hope that Patriarch Golden Firmament will be graced with your presence in 3 months' time. Oh? All right, this forefather will definitely be there. Forefather Golden Firmament's voice was slightly sharp. He then cut off the connection. Dongbui Shuang smiled. He hoped to resolve the enmity between them, but there was a limit to his good temper. Whether he was a friend or a foe would depend on Forefather Golden Firmament himself. Of the 3 ancestors, Monarch of Destruction, Peng Yi, and Dongbui Shuang had sent a direct message through the internal system of the Bloodshed Tavern. No matter what, they were all from the Bloodshed God Palace, and on the surface, they had to be invited. However, Dongbui Shuang reckoned that the chances of them coming were low. After all, paragons would rarely condescend to participate in such matters. Even his teacher, Bloodblade and Dongbui Shuang, had invited him. Bloodblade directly replied, When the time comes, I'll let your 5th Uncle Master go over. He likes crowds. Such an occasion. Bloodblade would naturally not appear. 5th Uncle Master? Dongbui Shuang was puzzled. Who was it? It's your Blackbird Uncle Master, Bloodblade said. That thieving bird always calls himself 5th Highness. Blackbird Uncle Master? Dongbui Shuang muttered inwardly. This was the first time he had heard God Emperor call Blackbird his Uncle Master. He had initially thought that it was just a slightly unique pet, but from the looks of it, God Emperor and Blackbird seemed to have a brotherly relationship. In the following days, first, the personal guards and the Xia people deities who were originally in the supervisor envoy residence moved over. The Bloodshed God Palace also sent people over to set up the space-time teleportation array. An enormous palace formed a luxurious residence. Above the entrance of the residence were naturally the 2 words Dongbui. From now on, this place was known as the Dongbui Residence. We're here. The white-robed Dongbui Yu walked out of the space-time teleportation array. Beside him was a green-haired woman named Shiwei. Shiwei said, Your Highness Yu, your father and mother have been waiting anxiously for you. They said that you would be back in half a month, but they kept dragging it out. That's why they ordered me to bring you back. Amen. Dongbui Yu nodded lightly. So, you're not happy at all when you come to Black Mist Sea and see the Emperor Dongbui residence? Shiwei laughed. Dongbui Yu and Shiwei flew, simultaneously gazing at the enormous residence in the distance. The Emperor Dongbui residence was indeed enormous. After all, at Dongbui Shuang and Jingqiu's level, they would need a lot of space just to test out their techniques or research spirit arrays. Naturally, the residence was even larger. It took up almost 1/10 of the entire continent. The residence's main entrance and courtyard walls were similarly tall and towering. They were reinforced by multiple spirit arrays, including material spirit arrays. The main entrance was extravagant and huge. The two words Dongbua were personally written by Dongbua Shuiying. These two words made the entire Dongbua residence seem deep and unfathomable, as if it was a huge world of its own. This feeling wasn't wrong. These two words were the core of an enormous spirit array. It was also a world spirit array that Dongbua Shuiying had spent a month setting up after building the residence. The spirit array was a world spirit array. The Emperor Dongbua residence was a vast world of its own. Father personally wrote it? Dongbua Yu raised his head and looked at it. Of course. The Emperor is amazing, right? Shi Wei praised. She also respectfully addressed Dongbua Shuiying as the Emperor. She had personally witnessed Dongbua Shuiying's rise to a height even higher than Holy Lord Crimson Dust. Amen, amazing. A hint of a smile appeared on Dongbua Yu's face. Shi Wei muttered inwardly. He's finally smiling. When she found Dongbua Yu was actually drinking alone. He could clearly use his godly energy to cure himself, but he kept drinking. I have to inform the Emperor and Madam. Shi Wei thought, His Highness Yu seems to have suffered a blow. Could it be because of his feelings, or something else? Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Your Highness. The guards at the entrance bowed respectfully. They were all veterans of the personal guard. They all knew of Dongbua Yu and Shi Wei. They were all very proud of themselves. After all, the higher Dongbua Shuiying's status was, the greater the influence of their personal guard. Within an underground hall, Dongbua Shuiying sat cross-legged on an icy blue blanket. The blanket was soft, and emitted a cooling feeling throughout his body. At this moment, he was isolated from all probing of laws. HM? Dongbua Shuiying was currently holding a dark red talisman in his hand. This was the talisman formed from the sharp dark red shard left behind by the frozen corpse of the Venerable, and the other shard found in the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain. Dongbua Shuiying lowered his head and carefully examined the runes on it. Just this simple rune alone. Although it looks ordinary, it's actually unfathomable. Previously it was just a shard, so he couldn't tell much. But now, it was a complete rune. The more he studied it, the more profound it seemed. Its level of profundity far surpassed his current realm. Chapter 610. Dongbua Shuiying flipped through the talisman. The realm of the ancient carvings was much higher than his, so he was unable to comprehend them. This talisman, is it a blessing or a curse? Dongbua Shuiying frowned. Back then, when he obtained the other fragment from the Three Chieftains' sacred mountain and fused them together, a message was transmitted from the talisman. The message was short, but it caused Dongbua Shuiying to feel an invisible pressure. This message was a message left behind by an ancient cultivator. This cosmos is so enchanting. Every blade of grass, every tree, every ray of sunlight, every drop of dew, all of them make me infatuated. However, I will have to leave this cosmos eventually. Before leaving, I will leave behind 3 talismans. After every talisman recognizes an owner, as long as the talisman is activated, no matter where you are in this cosmos, no matter if you are imprisoned or sealed, or even trapped in an ancient ruin. As long as the talisman is activated, you will be teleported to the place where I lived for a long time. That place, I named it the starting ground. There is a gift that I left behind for this cosmos before I left. However, this gift is accompanied by danger. Every time you enter, you will have a slim chance of survival. The moment you die, the talisman will once again scatter across the vast cosmos, waiting for the next cultivator. If you succeed, you will receive my gift. Furthermore, you will be able to teleport from the starting ground to any location in this vast cosmos. The number of times you can enter is limited. You can enter once in the world deity realm, once in the world deity realm, once in the opening realm, and once in the ruler realm. Dongbua Shuiying pondered. This message was short, but if one tried to comprehend it, they would discover many secrets. Firstly, there were a total of 3 such talismans. Naturally, the other 2 might have an owner, or they might not. Perhaps they were scattered across the cosmos. Secondly, the starting ground that these talismans led to was left behind by an ancient cultivator. He had already left this cosmos. Left this cosmos? Dongbui Shuang muttered to himself. Moreover, even true god rulers can enter, and the danger they would encounter would be a slim chance of survival? This senior who left behind the starting ground should be far stronger than a true god ruler. Moreover, one can activate the talisman from any place to teleport to the starting ground, and from the starting ground, one can directly go to any place in the universe? Dongbui Shuang was slightly shocked. Just the spatial teleportation from the talisman alone had already surpassed the means of the temporal island lord. Places like the Lake Heart Island and some other ancient ruins were all suppressed by arrays. Most people would have to fly slowly to reach that place, and there was no way to travel through space. However, the talisman could directly teleport into the starting ground. All the formations in the ruins were useless. This was too heaven-defying. Could it be that he's stronger than the master of Lake Heart Island? No, the Lake Heart Island master is the #1 expert of the many universe epics mentioned by Master. Master's foresight is much higher than mine. Since he holds the Lake Heart Island master in such high regard, the Lake Heart Island master must be extremely powerful. Perhaps the master of the starting ground is only an expert in spatial teleportation? Dongbui Shuang thought to himself. Just like the Cosmos Deity Demon list. First on the list was Bloodblade. But in terms of space-time shifting? The Temporal Island Lord was the strongest. Everyone had their own specialties. The master of the starting ground might be in existence on the same level as the Lake Heart Island master, and was also one of the top few terrifying existences across the many universe epics. Was it just that he specialized in spatial teleportation? Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. Dongbui Shuang soon threw this question to the back of his mind. It did not matter who the master of the starting ground was. To be able to forcefully teleport away from any ancient ruins, he should not be any weaker than the Lake Heart Island master. Even though the danger was huge, Dongbui Shuang understood that this was also an opportunity. If he used this talisman well, he could use it to escape at a crucial moment. However, he could only use it once in the World Deity Realm. The World Deity Realm was easy to understand. The World Realm referred to grasping the complete laws of the heaven and earth. The Opening Realm referred to opening one's own Tao. The Ruler Realm referred to being a ruler. I'd only have one chance in the World Deity Realm, and I can't use it unless I'm in a dire situation. Furthermore, it was mentioned that 9 out of 10 would die and 1 out. Since this senior had left behind this trial, it must be a trial for the younger generation. The stronger one is, the greater the chance of survival. Shuang thought, I have to let myself become stronger in grand perfection before entering. I hope I won't die the first time I enter. Dongbui Shuang thought. Suddenly, Emperor, His Highness Yu has been brought back. It was Shi Wei's voice transmission. Yu is back? Dongbui Shuang revealed an expression of joy. He immediately kept the talisman and left the underground hall. The branches hung down, swaying with the wind. High up in the sky, Shuang and Jingqiu could see the handsome white-robed Dongbo Yu and the green-haired Shi Wei standing on the stone path. So. The two of them flew down and landed on the stone path. Your son greets father and mother. Dongbui Shuang revealed an expression of joy when he saw his parents, and immediately bowed respectfully. Ha, Yu, I called you back for the establishment of the mansion, but you refused. In the end, it was Shi Wei who brought you back. Dongbui Shuang laughed as he looked at his son. He had been in closed-door cultivation for too long, and even his main body in the Crimson Rock Mountain world of the Xia people had been in closed-door cultivation for a long period of time. Thus, after not seeing his son for so long, he could feel that Dongbui Yu seemed to be more reserved when he saw him. Dongbui Yu hurriedly said, It's your son's fault. Jingqiu immediately pulled her son's hand. What's wrong? Come, let's have a good chat. Your sister will be here soon. Amen. Dongbui Shuiying's eyes were slightly red. Family was the most important thing in his life. Dongbui Shuiying frowned slightly. Jingqiu did not notice anything amiss either. Dongbu Shuang had been in closed-door cultivation for too long, and had thought that his son had become rusty. But now, his son's eyes were slightly red. A peak deity-level cultivator was showing his emotions so openly? Only then did Dongbu Shuang realize that something was amiss. Jing Qiu, on the other hand, had seen her son frequently. The moment she saw him, she immediately took the initiative to pull her son's hand. Snow Eagle, you seems to have experienced something outside, Jing Qiu transmitted. And then, let me ask Shiwei. Dongbu Shuang immediately transmitted. Shiwei, what's wrong with you? Reporting to the Emperor and Madam. Shiwei, who was following behind, transmitted. I don't know the details, but I was ordered by the Emperor to bring His Highness Yu back. When I found His Highness Yu was actually drunk. I asked around and found out that His Highness Yu had been drinking and getting drunk for over 30 years, and was rather dispirited. Dongbu Shuang and Jing Qiu exchanged glances. Jing Qiu, let me check, Dongbu Shuang transmitted. He immediately used the Bloodshed Tavern system to investigate the details of his son's past. The Temporal Temple sold information, and the Bloodshed Tavern was in charge of assassin missions. They similarly placed great importance on information, just that it was slightly weaker. However, with Dongbu Shuiying's identity, the Bloodshed Tavern would naturally do their best to investigate. It would take time to investigate. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu accompanied their son and daughter for a long time. At the start, Dongbu Yu was rather happy. But gradually he felt depressed. He said, Father, Mother, I still don't know where I am staying. Let the servants bring me to have a look. No need. Qing Yao, go bring your brother, Dongbu Shuiying instructed. There's no need to trouble sister, Dongbu Yu replied. What's the trouble? Let's go! Dongbu Qiao grabbed Dongbu Yu. As a world deity, she was like an eagle grabbing a chick. Dongbu Yu was unable to resist at all. Nevertheless, Dongbu Yu still felt somewhat happy in his heart when his sister acted so wantonly with him. Very soon the siblings left. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu were also strolling around the residence. Yes, Dongbu Shuiying said. You found out? Jing Qiu asked. How could parents not care about their children? As expected, Dongbu Shuiying laughed. It really is a matter of emotions. Forget about deities, even at the ruler realm, emotions would cause a cultivator's temperament to change. Quickly tell us, Jing Qiu asked. It happened about 10,000 years ago, Dongbu Shuiying said. Yu was adventuring outside, and he arrived at a place called the White Blossom Planet. The master of the White Blossom Planet was called the White Blossom World Deity. She was a Stage 2 world deity, and she was the absolute overlord of that starfield. When Yu was on the White Blossom Planet, he got to know a woman. That woman was also from the White Blossom World Deity's family, but she was just an ordinary deity. Her relationship with Yu gradually deepened, but 30 years ago, that woman and Yu are separated. In truth, it's not a big deal. It's just that this was the first time Yu had feelings for someone since he started cultivating, and he couldn't take it anymore. For 30 years, he intentionally got himself drunk. Jing Qiu laughed. Dongbu Shuiying also had a smile on his face. The two of them weren't worried. Instead, they were happy. After all, on the long path of cultivation, emotional entanglements didn't count for much. What made them happy was that their son, who hadn't talked about emotions for hundreds of thousands of years, had finally fallen in love with a woman. Chapter 611. Cultivators would either fall in love at a very early stage and become husband and wife, or they would fall in love at a very late stage and never fall in love at all. This was because once they truly stepped on the path of cultivation and immersed themselves in the laws of the world, they would enter closed-door cultivation for a very long time and rarely fall in love. The stronger a cultivator was, the calmer their mental state would be. They would not be willing to be disturbed by emotions and could have as many women as they wanted. But to fall in love? Difficult. However, there was one situation that would cause cultivators to fall in love, and that was when they fell into a bottleneck and were unable to break through for a long period of time. At this time, their mental state would be affected and they would choose to travel the world in search of opportunities. In fact, cultivators would even take the initiative to let go of their emotions. To them, tempering their emotions might be an opportunity for them to break through. Of course, once they fell in love, it would surpass their lives. "Why did that girl break up with Yue?" Jingqiu asked. "She looked down on Yue and felt that Yue did not work hard in his cultivation. Thus they broke up." Dongbua Shuang laughed. "It seems that girl did not truly immerse herself in the relationship," Jingqiu said. "Right," Dongbua Shuang said. "This is a good thing as well. It is also a form of tempering for Yue." It was a very simple emotional setback. There was no such thing as a separation of life and death. Dongbua Shuang and his wife were not worried at all. After all, their son had cultivated his heart for so many years and had experienced many things. It was impossible for him to be so weak. Their son had probably seen through it long ago. Getting drunk was just him venting his frustrations. After all, this was his first relationship, and it had lasted for 10,000 years. In the blink of an eye, the day of the opening ceremony had arrived. Many powerful existences rushed over from all directions to congratulate him. After all, Dongbua Shuang was very powerful and had a combat power close to that of a paragon. The world of cultivators was very realistic. The stronger one was, the more respected one would be. Hua! A Starfield flying ship flew out from the space-time tunnel. There were 3 figures on the deck of the ship. The one in the lead was an old man with an aquiline nose. Beside him were 2 young world deities. They were none other than Drunk Guest and Jiushi, who had participated in the myriad flower feast with Dongbua Shuang. The 2 of them were the disciples of Yugong. Yugong had brought these 2 with him this time. Drunk Guest was already a universe deity of the second heaven, while Jiushi was still a universe deity of the first heaven. Emperor Dongbo also participated in the myriad flower feast with you, the hook-nosed old man, Yugong said. But at that time, he should have been a grade 1 true meaning transcendent who was deliberately hiding his strength. In the blink of an eye, his strength has already surpassed mine. Jiushi and Drunk Guest listened obediently. Yugong brought his 2 disciples here to get closer to Dongbua Shuang. This was because there would definitely be many almighty existences here today. If he didn't bring his 2 disciples, he, Yugong, would only be one of the almighty existences. Dongbua Shuang might not even pay attention to him. "Let's go down." As for Jiushi and Drunk Guest, their hearts were filled with complicated emotions. Jiushi was narrow-minded to begin with, which made her even more indignant. After all, he wasn't even a personal disciple under Yugong's tutelage. If not for the fact that he and Dongbua Shuang had participated in the myriad flower feast together, Yugong wouldn't have brought him along. As for Drunk Guest, he could feel the gap between them, but at the same time, his fighting spirit grew stronger. Very soon, they descended and arrived at the main gate of Monarch Dongbo's residence. The majestic residence, as well as the formless aura emanating from the arrays, caused Jiushi and Drunk Guest to hold their breaths. The main gate was wide open. Not far away, a couple with extraordinary auras could be seen. The 2 had brought along a relatively weaker man and woman to welcome the guests. "Ha ha ha, I've long since heard of Monarch Dongbo's name. It's just that during the battle at the 3 Chieftains' Sacred Mountain in the Dark Abyss, Monarch Dongbo left me tongue-tied." Yugong laughed as he walked forward with his 2 disciples. With a single glance, Dongbua Shuang recognized Drunk Guest and Jiushi behind Yugong. Drunk Guest and Jiushi participated in the myriad flower feast with me back then, and they were also ranked in the top 3 of the Kamsi Prefecture. However, both of them are disciples of Yugong. "It's no ordinary coincidence," said Dongbua Shuang. Beside him, Jingqiu, Dongbua, Qin Yao, and Dongbua Yu bowed slightly as well. "Fate, fate." "Ha!" Yugong said. He noticed a surging aura approaching from behind, and he couldn't help but feel slightly startled. He immediately said, "I'll be going in first." Monarch Dongbo is very busy today. Please. Dongbo Shuang watched as Yugong and the rest left. Only then did he take the initiative to welcome the newcomer. Big brother Huicheng. Brother Dongbo. The newcomer was none other than Paragon Huicheng. The other powerful existences had brought along 2 or 3 subordinates, but Paragon Huicheng had come alone. His unseen aura had long since caused those powerful existences to hold their breaths. After all, he was ranked in the top 20 across the entire cosmos, including the rulers. Many powerful existences arrived. Dongbu Shuang brought along his wife and children to welcome them. The less they chatted, the more they chatted. It was normal for them to chat for the time taken to brew a cup of tea. The moment a new guest arrived, the conversation would naturally end, and Dongbu Shuang would go to welcome the new guest. At this moment, a plump male brought along 2 female world deities walked over. This plump male's eyes were deep and unfathomable, and his aura was extraordinary. He was a powerful existence from the Bloodshed God Palace. The majority of the powerful existences who came today were powerful existences who did not rely on any superpowers. After all, there were only about 20 powerful existences who belonged to the Bloodshed God Palace. Monarch Dongbo. The plump male greeted as he walked over. Monarch Hunting Wind. Dongbo Shuang chuckled. Monarch Hunting Wind was a powerful existence who had evolved from a beast. Many sovereigns from the dark abyss surrounded and attacked the monarch, yet they could not do anything to him. In the end, the monarch fought 1 against 3 and even killed a powerful existence from the dark abyss. Just thinking about it makes my blood boil. The plump male simply praised a few words before praising Dongbu Shuaying's wife and children. And behind the plump male were 2 female world deities. One of them was the Whiting world deity. The Whiting world deity saw Dongbu Yu. Dongbu Yu also saw the Whiting world deity. He had naturally obtained intelligence on many world deities, so he was able to recognize the Whiting world deity with a single glance. Whiting world deity. Feng Yu should be from her clan. Dongbu Yu thought. The Whiting world deity was rather reserved. After all, this was an extraordinary occasion. Her teacher, God Monarch Hunting Wind, was just an ordinary person here. Suddenly, the Whiting world deity noticed Dongbu Yu. Monarch Dongbu's son? The Whiting world deity was slightly stunned. She had lived in the Whiting planet for a long time and had seen Dongbu Yu with a woman from her clan, although she had only glanced at them from afar. But what kind of memory did world deities have? Naturally, she remembered it clearly. The one with Feng Yu is Monarch Dongbu's son? Ha ha ha, the heavens are helping me. Feng Yu is really lucky. She is actually together with Monarch Dongbu's son. The Whiting world deity was overjoyed. Her status was too high, so she did not know that Feng Yu and Dongbu Yu had already been separated. The Whiting world deity even smiled at Dongbu Yu. Dongbu Yu was slightly embarrassed. Suddenly, an overbearing and fierce aura came from the main entrance. The plump man looked back and immediately said, "I shall go in first. I shall not disturb the monarch." He immediately left with the 2 female disciples. Dongbu Shuang looked at the figure that walked in from the main entrance. The figure was dressed in a golden robe and had a pair of sharp and fierce golden eyes. It was Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, one of the 5 fierce beasts of the God realm. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament's gaze swept past Dongbu Shuang, then landed on Yu Jingqiu. Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. Dongbu Shuang smiled and took the initiative to welcome him. Monarch Dongbu, is this the monarch's wife? Old Ancestor Golden Firmament also walked in with a cold smile. Chapter 612. Right, this is my wife, Jingqiu. Dongbu Shuang warmly went forward to welcome her. Jingqiu? Even your name changed after your reincarnation. Forefather Golden Firmament looked at Jingqiu, but he knew that things were different now. Jingqiu now had her husband, Dongbu Shuang, behind her, and Dongbu Shuang was not any weaker than him. Furthermore, many experts had come to attend the opening banquet, especially Paragon Huiqing, who had a life and death bond with Dongbua Shuiying. Even if he wanted to vent his anger, today was not the right time to do so. Ha! Dongbua Shuiying laughed, then changed the topic. Forefather coming here is already giving me, Dongbua Shuiying, face. That little grudge back then shows that we are fated to meet. How about we discuss it in private after the banquet? All right. Forefather Golden Firmament indifferently replied, then glanced at Jingqiu. Profound Daughter Star Sword, your luck is truly not bad. In the past, you had your father protecting you, and now, you have your husband protecting you. Jingqiu stood by Dongbua Shuiying's side and smiled. Many thanks for the forefather's praise. My luck has always been good. Forefather Golden Firmament snorted, then turned and left. The fact that he did not directly attack Jingqiu was already a testament to his patience. After sending off Forefather Golden Firmament with her gaze, Jingqiu heaved a sigh of relief, then transmitted back with a smile. Snow Eagle, I thought that with Forefather Golden Firmament's fiendish temper, he would start a fight the moment he arrived. He is fiendish, but he is no fool. Dongbua Shuiying transmitted back. If he dares to attack, Big Brother Huiqing will suppress him with a single slap. The guests arrived one after another. Quite a few Stage 4 world deities came as well, such as the Kamsi Prefecture Master, whom he had a good relationship with, and Monarch Armadillo Jade and King Fuqiong, whom he had adventured with back at Lake Heart Island. Many Stage 4 world deities arrived, and most of them had a simple friendship. Dongbua Shuiying also welcomed them warmly. Big Sis! The white-robed woman, 7th Meiyu, had come to pay a visit alongside Empress Mother Whirlpool. Dongbua Shuiying and his wife, along with their children, were even more enthusiastic. Even Jingqiu's smile widened. Little sister! Jingqiu was also very happy. During the myriad flower feast, she had recognized her sister, but she didn't dare to reveal her identity. This little sister pays her respects to big sister and brother-in-law. 7th Meiyu was also full of smiles. The smiles on the faces of Dongbua Shuiying and Emperor Mother Whirlpool grew even brighter. Monarch Mother Whirlpool laughed and said, Haha, back then, this disciple of mine participated in the myriad flower feast with Monarch. Who would have thought that she would actually be your wife's younger sister? Fate. Back then, this wife of mine even hid it from me. I didn't even know that 7th Meiyu was a girl. Dongbua Shuiying sighed and shook his head. Now that he thought about it, it was indeed interesting. You are Qin Yao, quickly greet your aunt. Jingqiu was very close to her sister. Aunt. Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qin Yao called out obediently. The two of you, bring your aunt to find your grandfather. Jingqiu instructed. Yes. Aunt, come with us. Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qin Yao were very cordial towards their aunt. 7th Meiyu immediately informed her master, Emperor Mother Whirlpool. Naturally, Emperor Mother Whirlpool said, Go. She had many disciples, but she only brought 7th Meiyu along. She wanted to use this opportunity to improve their relationship. After all, Dongbua Shuiying's strength was extraordinary, and he was one of the 5 monarchs. If she couldn't protect him, she could always go to Dongbua Shuiying's door. Apart from Forefather Golden Firmament, who had some conflict with him, the others were all on good terms with him. Some of them even had extraordinary relationships. He saw 2 figures in the distance. One was a bald, white-robed youth, while the other was a white-haired, youthful-faced elder. Dongbua Shuiying took the initiative to step forward. Senior apprentice brother Forefather. These 2 were none other than eldest apprentice brother Hui Ming and Chihua Laozu. I've long known that junior apprentice brother's future is boundless, but I didn't expect you to grow so quickly. Eldest apprentice brother Hui Ming had a pure smile on his face. This senior apprentice brother has to say that I admire you. Senior apprentice brother, you're overpraising me. It's not hard for a grade 1 true meaning transcendent to become a stage 4 heavenly deity. I was just lucky enough to obtain an absolute art. Dongbua Shuiying replied. Lucky? Strength doesn't depend on luck. Junior apprentice brother, don't be too humble. Eldest apprentice brother Hui Ming laughed. Clearly, he was in a good mood. "Oh, senior apprentice brother," Dongbua Shuang transmitted. "After the banquet ends, let's have a good chat in private." "Oh?" Eldest apprentice brother Wei Ming was startled. "It's regarding Master's vengeance," Dongbua Shuang transmitted. Eldest apprentice brother Wei Ming nodded lightly. First of all, Sacred Master Crimson Dust's death was due to the fact that he was indebted to Sacred Master Crimson Dust even though he had never met him before. Furthermore, Sacred Master Crimson Dust's character was something that Dongbua Shuang admired. On the other hand, Patriarch Black Devil was a treacherous person. If Sacred Master Crimson Dust was a great demon, and Patriarch Black Devil was a straightforward person, Dongbua Shuang would not have been so proactive in his vengeance. Secondly, there was still some karma between them, so he still had to act. Who would have thought that Prefecture Master would come today? "You have given me a pleasant surprise," Dongbua Shuang said. "You are pleasantly surprised that I came?" Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master had a smile on his face. "Then what about your eldest senior brother?" "Eldest senior brother?" Dongbua Shuang was startled. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master turned to look behind. Dongbua Shuang looked over. A figure walked over. His hair was disheveled, and he was wearing a simple gray robe. His eyes were gentle, and he walked over barefoot. His feet were huge, and as he walked on the ground, it was as though he was the ruler of the entire heaven and earth. His aura wasn't tyrannical, but all the cultivators present could not help but have the urge to submit to him. Dongbua Shuang immediately understood who he was. He was a legendary existence in the deity world and abyss, Monarch Green. "Due to some mundane matters, I will be late today. Everyone, please forgive me. Star." Chapter 613. Monarch Green was the proudest disciple of Bloodblade. However, he had long left the Bloodshed God Palace and formed his own superpower. He had many powerful existences under him. Dongbua Shuang had received detailed intelligence from Paragon Huiqing and his teacher Bloodblade. He was clear of how formidable this eldest disciple brother of his, Monarch Green, was. His influence in the entire deity world and abyss was not any weaker than that of a ruler. He was even more influential than some rulers. Why was that? Because Monarch Green was similar to Bloodblade. He had opened a total of 3 Daos and had reached the bottleneck. He was just one step away from becoming a ruler. The combination of 3 Daos allowed Monarch Green to have no flaws. He was a terrifying paragon who could be called perfect. Bloody Ruler, Temporal Island Lord, Myriad God Palace Head, and Empress Qian, he had only grasped a single Dao. Of course, they had all reached the ruler realm. And while Monarch Green's Daos were slightly weaker, he could coordinate all 3 Daos together. This made his combat power extremely formidable. Some paragons could escape from rulers, yet they were countered by Monarch Green. Monarch Green was confident of trapping and killing them. Monarch Green could similarly fight against rulers. He was too all-round. Every aspect was perfect. His 3 Daos were even more compatible than Bloodblade's 3 Daos. At the same time, Monarch Green was the only one in the entire deity world and abyss other than Bloodblade who had 3 bodies. Any one of his avatars was extremely powerful, yet he had a total of 3 bodies? Although Monarch Green did not occupy a territory, there were as many as 15 powerful experts under his banner. He had more than Empress Qian He and Primal Master. He was close to Temporal Island Lord, Myriad God Palace Head, and Bloodblade. Empress Qian He's deterrence towards paragons was actually not as strong as Monarch Green. Primal Master was too aloof and too lazy to accept subordinates. Dongbua Shuang had never heard of Primal Master's name before meeting Paragon Huiqing. One could see how low-key he was. Thus, Monarch Green was vaguely the 4th superpower in the deity world. Senior brother Monarch Green. Dongbua Shuang hurriedly stepped forward. He was very humble and polite, not daring to slack off in the slightest. The arrival of Qing Jun was almost equivalent to the arrival of a ruler. Just by giving him face, he had to respect him even more. Junior brother Dongbua. Qing Jun came barefooted and smiled. I have long heard of junior apprentice brother's name. Seeing you today, you are indeed extraordinary. Monarch Green was also observing this junior martial brother. It must be known that the Bloodblade sect had received many direct disciples in its history, but many of them did not have the opportunity to see Monarch Green. Qing Jun was also too lazy to see them. After all, some of them might not necessarily be able to transcend. Even if they did, their future would probably be very ordinary. Qing Jun simply looked down on them. But in the eyes of Qing Jun, Dongbua Shuang was completely different. Firstly, Dongbua Shuang was the fastest person in history to become a world deity of the third heaven. To be able to break the record for cultivation speed in the entire history of the God realm, as long as he didn't die, he definitely wouldn't be mediocre. Secondly, Dongbua Shuang was the only member of the army of destruction apart from Peng Yi. In fact, this point made Monarch Green even more concerned. Peng Yi! Monarch Green silently said in his heart. Peng Yi was a huge blow to him. One must know that when he, Monarch Green, rose to power, he did not place any paragons in his eyes at all. With a single punch, he heavily injured a peak paragon, Peng Yi. Monarch Green had the qualifications to be arrogant, but Peng Yi had quietly transformed. Peng Yi had once fought with Bloody Ruler, directly suppressing him and causing him to be injured. Monarch Green did not dare to believe it. He had sought out Peng Yi to fight. When the two fought, there were no spectators. But in this battle, Monarch Green revealed his monstrous strength. But when the two fought head-on, Peng Yi was not at a disadvantage. The two were unable to determine a victor. I can't defeat Nile, but he can. But he shouldn't have become a ruler yet. Master also said that Peng Yi's self-created cultivation technique is about to succeed. Once he succeeds, he will become a ruler. Even Master holds him in high esteem. I feel that I have reached the pinnacle in every aspect, but I still can't defeat a paragon. As a paragon, I went to the paradise of destruction, but I couldn't pass the test to become a soldier, but Peng Yi actually became a captain. Monarch Green was very proud, but Peng Yi had ruthlessly shattered his pride. Even the Stage 4 commander of the Army of Destruction highly admires Peng Yi. Monarch Green was also very amiable. Even the aura he emitted was not the slightest bit overbearing or oppressive. Not to mention the powerful existences present, even ordinary mortals would not be affected by it. But regardless of whether it was a weak creature or a powerful true divinity, they all had a kind of impulse to submit. Master told me that he accepted a very proud disciple and told me to come and take a look when I have time. Monarch Green smiled. I'm just a Stage 4 world deity, and I haven't even transcended. Senior disciple brother, you don't have to praise me. Shuang let out a sigh of relief. Monarch Green had treated him quite well, and it wasn't that hard to get close to him. Monarch Green's gaze fell on Jingqiu. Junior brother Dongbua, this must be sister-in-law. Sister-in-law is also a Stage 4 world deity. Not bad, not bad. If you can transcend, you and your wife will be able to live forever. I'm afraid that countless cultivators in the entire deity world and abyss will be envious of you. Dongbua Shuang and Jingqiu looked at each other and smiled. But Dongbua Shuang knew that the information he collected recorded the history of Monarch Green's growth. Monarch Green had never had a wife. He was an expert who wholeheartedly focused on cultivation. Alright, since fifth martial uncle is here, I won't say much. Monarch Green said and walked to the side. Dongbua Shuang also immediately looked at the front door. A phantom completely ignored the ceiling formation around the mansion built by Dongbua Shuang and directly appeared from nothingness, appearing at the front door of Dongbua Shuang's mansion. Following that, the phantom flew in instantly. When the figure stopped, it was a seemingly ordinary black bird. But this black bird was looking at Dongbua Shuang with a quack quack smile. Dongbua boy, not bad. You're also one of the top experts under your master. Hurry up and cultivate, so that you can transcend and become a venerable as soon as possible. You have to catch up with your senior brother Monarch Green. Fifth martial uncle, please come in. In cultivation, Dongbua will naturally do his best. Dongbua Shuang said. The black bird smiled and grabbed at its body, pulling out a black feather. For your opening banquet, there are no other gifts, but I'll give you a feather. You have to prepare more delicious food this time. I don't care what other people eat, but I must eat the best. If there's anything delicious, just give it to me. I came here today for food. If there's nothing delicious, it would be a big loss for me to give you such a valuable gift. Dongbua Shuang took the black feather. Fifth Martial Uncle, rest assured, I will definitely prepare the best food. After saying that, Dongbua Shuang took the black feather. As soon as Dongbua Shuang caught it, his palm went through the black feather. Don't use matter to catch it, use energy, the blackbird said. Dongbua Shuang seemed to understand. The luminous sun force in his body surged, and a layer of energy immediately appeared on the surface of his palm. He reached out and grabbed the black feather. The black bird laughed, flapped its wings, and flew towards the depths of the mansion. Almost all the guests have arrived, right? Jingqiu, who was at the side, asked. Most of the world deities have arrived, and most of the powerful existences should be here as well, Dongbua Shuang said. At the same time, he looked at the black feather in his hand carefully. This time, the guests would usually give some gifts, but there were also people who would receive the gifts. When welcoming the guests, it was directly sent to Dongbua Shuang. This black bird was the only one who did this. What kind of feather is this? Dongbua Shuang felt that it was extraordinary. Chapter 614. Dongbua Shuang tried to sense the black feather. His consciousness tried to penetrate it, but it was a blur. In the end, he still had to rely on his naked eyes to observe. Because of the extreme annihilation mysterious body, Dongbua Ying's body had been cultivated to an extremely tyrannical level. His eyes had also become even more unfathomable. Even a grain of sand would look like a huge star under his observation. Now that his body was even stronger than ordinary true gods, he could see through the particle level with his eyes. Under his observation, the black feather rapidly expanded in his field of vision, turning into a huge black feather land. This vast land was filled with countless black tubular objects. Countless thin tubes formed the huge land. Dongbua Ying's gaze continued to penetrate through the thin tubes. Hoo-hoo! Within the thin tubes, there was a void tunnel that led to another region. Within this void tunnel, there were faint patterns flowing about. These patterns were similar to the patterns on the talismans that led to the starting ground. Because his eyes were able to see through the black feather and see the interior of the void tubes that were billions and billions of times smaller, even Dongbua Ying's eyes started to feel blurry. He could also see the patterns vaguely. Dongbua Ying was slightly surprised. He then continued to inspect the other thin tubes. Every thin tube was a void tunnel. This feather is like a vast world. Within this vast world, there are billions and billions of void tube tunnels. Moreover, every single tube is unique. Dongbua Ying retracted his gaze and started to look at the entire black feather land. The entire feather land was made up of countless densely packed thin tubes. The land was incomparably stable. Countless black thin tubes formed a complete land. Such a structure was also a form of extreme beauty. It had already surpassed the scope of a formation. It was a form of natural beauty. Inconceivable. Unparalleled profundity. A thought surfaced in Dongbua Ying's mind. The void tunnel within the thin tubes was too blurry, and it was hard for him to comprehend anything. However, the internal structure of the black feather was much more perfect than the particles of his extreme annihilation mysterious body. This caused Dongbua Ying to have some thoughts. Snow Eagle! Snow Eagle! Jingqiu shouted from the side. Dongbua Ying regained his senses and kept the black feather. Fifth Uncle Master's gift is indeed special. How special is a feather? Jingqiu was confused. I'll let you take a closer look after the banquet. Dongbua Ying laughed. He felt that if he had enough time, he would be able to comprehend some techniques from the black feather. After Uncle Master Black Bird arrived, no other powerful figures came. Dongbua Shuang walked around and chatted with the powerful existences. When the banquet was ready, it officially started. Actually, most people did not care about eating and drinking at the opening banquet. This was a chance for the mighty figures to gather and interact. In the past, they were not familiar with each other, but after exchanging toasts and chatting casually, they naturally became familiar with each other. There were a total of 68 almighties attending the banquet. The seating arrangements were also randomly scattered in the garden, scattered in twos and threes, and there was no difference in height. However, humans were divided into groups of 2 or 3. Black Bird 5th Uncle Master, Monarch Green, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, Paragon Huiqing, Monarch Gu Zhang, Dongbua Shuang, Hall Master Bei Hu, and others were grouped together. Dongbua Shuang was sandwiched between 2 groups of cultivators. On the other side were Chihua Laozu, Senior Apprentice Brother Huiming, Jing Qiu, Monarch Mo Shui, Kamsi Prefecture Master, and others who were close to him. Naturally, some of the weaker world deities like 7th Meiyu, Dongbua Yu, Dongbua Qin Yao, and the White Sand City Lord had to be arranged further away. If they were placed beside powerful existences, they would not be able to eat well. At the same time, at the center of the garden where the banquet was held, there were also some singing and dancing performances to liven things up. Senior Apprentice Brother Gu Zhang, everyone says that you have been cultivating for a long time and rarely come out. Today is Junior Apprentice Brother's opening banquet. Junior Apprentice Brother is truly happy that Senior Apprentice Brother could attend. Let us drink a cup, Dongbua Shuang said. Monarch Gu Zhang was a handsome youth with a fair complexion. His body was emitting a heavy aura of death. Monarch Gu Zhang smiled and raised his cup. Junior Apprentice Brother has done me such a great favor. How can I not come? Paragon Huicheng observed from the side and was inwardly surprised. Gu Zhang and Monarch Green don't seem to be close. But both of them seemed to be very close to Brother Dongbua. How strange. It was indeed strange. Monarch Gu Zhang and Monarch Green weren't sitting far from each other, but other than a few simple sentences, they did not converse. It was clear that they were not familiar with each other. I've never heard of any conflicts between these 2 senior apprentice brothers. Dongbua Shuang had an even stronger feeling. The unfamiliarity between these 2 senior apprentice brothers was too obvious. He could not say anything and could only accompany his 2 senior apprentice brothers and his other friends. Amen? Old Ancestor Golden Firmament, who was sitting on the other side, frowned as he glanced at Dongbua Shuang, who was chatting with Monarch Green, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, and Paragon Huiqing. This Dongbua Shuang actually has such a good relationship with Monarch Green and the other 2. The 3 of them are in the top 20 of the Cosmos Deity Demon list. Monarch Green's power is even more unfathomable. He can kill me with a flip of his hand. But my big brother should be stronger than Monarch Green. Big brother has been pondering over his cultivation technique. Once he succeeds, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament and Pang Yi were the earliest lifeforms in the divine world. Both of them were born in the divine world and were like brothers. It's just that Big Brother is weird. His temper has changed a lot. The banquet lasted for 3 days. To powerful cultivators, 3 days was a short period of time. They could casually chat for a few hours about a certain historical remnant. A short period of time was not enough to satisfy them. After chatting for a long time, they would naturally become familiar with each other. After the banquet ended, for example, Senior Uncle Black Bird, who ate from the beginning to the end, naturally left immediately. Monarch Green, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, and some other powerful existences also started leaving. Dongbua Shuang personally sent them off. Very soon, more than half of them had left. Senior Brother Huiming, Chihua Laozu, we can talk about our matters later. I will go and meet Old Ancestor Golden Firmament first. Dongbua Shuang said. All right. Big Senior Brother Huiming nodded. You should go and deal with that Old Ancestor Golden Firmament first. He isn't someone to be trifled with, Chihua Laozi said. Now that they knew Jing Qiu's identity, they naturally understood the conflict between Dongbua Shuang and Old Ancestor Golden Firmament. in a quiet back garden. Only Dongbus Shuang and old ancestor Golden Firmament had wine flasks warming them. Dongbus Shuang personally poured wine for them and said, "Old ancestor Golden Firmament, you have spent hundreds of billions of years searching for the heart-sword diagram. You have collected the other 4 fragments, and the last fragment is the last. You even spent a lot of effort to break the seal of the historical remnant, but in the end, my wife obtained it. I can understand your anger. But old ancestor, you should also understand that my wife is also wrong. Did she do anything wrong? No, she only went to these ordinary and dangerous places to take a look, and inadvertently obtained the fragment of the heart-sword diagram. You can even say that it was her luck that led to this. That's why you chased after her wantonly and wanted to search her soul. In the end, my wife was even forced to reincarnate. Old ancestor Golden Firmament, you are bullying the weak." "What? You want to avenge your wife?" Old ancestor Golden Firmament snorted coldly. Chapter 6:15. Dongbus Shuang finished pouring the wine and pushed the cup towards Patriarch Golden Firmament. "Have a drink first. This is the 100-fruit wine unique to my hometown, the Xia people's world. It is brewed meticulously from 100 different fruits and has a unique taste." In the end, Patriarch Golden Firmament still picked up the cup and took a sip. "It's average, but it still has the taste of the material realm." Dongbus Shuang smiled and continued, "Patriarch, you say that I'm avenging my wife? Haha, if I, Dongbus Shuang, had master's strength, I might really kill you in a fit of rage." "Oh?" Patriarch Golden Firmament's face darkened. "Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of strength." Shuang chuckled. "Even though everyone can understand forefathers' feelings, forefather, if you think about this matter carefully, you should know that my wife is the most innocent one. That time, she did not have the heart to go against forefather, and did not dare to go against forefather. It's a pity that time cannot be reversed, and she was forced to choose to reincarnate." Patriarch Golden Firmament listened with a gloomy expression. However, he had to admit that from Yu Jingqiu's point of view, she was indeed wrong. She was forced into a dead end and had to choose the path of death, reincarnation. "You say that I, Dongbus Shuang, am not angry? Not holding a grudge? Do you believe me, Patriarch?" Dongbus Shuang looked at Patriarch Golden Firmament. "You can take revenge all you want." Patriarch Golden Firmament snorted. "Unfortunately, you don't have that kind of strength. My wife successfully reincarnated and got to know me. From a different perspective, you played a part in our fate." Dongbus Shuang smiled. "Since you and I can't do anything to each other, why don't we both take a step back and end this feud? Patriarch, you must not use this against the people of my celestial emperor residence in the future. I will take a step back as well, and I will not use this against you in the future." Patriarch Golden Firmament frowned. "Oh? What if I don't take a step back?" Dongbus Shuang continued pouring wine as he said calmly, "Then we can only be enemies." Although his voice was calm, it was cold. He, Dongbus Shuang, was not someone who was afraid of trouble. In terms of strength, his current ranking was slightly higher than forefather Golden Firmament's. In terms of background, his teacher Blood Blade was ranked first on the Cosmos Deity Demon list. He was much stronger than Pangyi. Furthermore, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master owed him a huge favor, and Paragon Huiqing was also his life and death brother. If they were to really become enemies, Dongbus Shuang would naturally not be afraid. "Come!" When Dongbus Shuang was done pouring the wine, he pushed the cup back to forefather Golden Firmament and said, "Finish this cup, and the enmity will be over. No one can continue to pester me." Patriarch Golden Firmament looked at Dongbus Shuang. Dongbus Shuang was also looking at him. "Ha!" Old ancestor Golden Firmament laughed. "Good. The mysterious Lady Star Sword has indeed found herself a good husband after reincarnating." With that, he raised his wine cup. Dongbus Shuang smiled and raised his cup. The two drank at the same time. "Let's end this matter here. I shall take my leave first." Forefather Golden Firmament stood up. My wife is also comprehending the remnant piece of the heart sword diagram. When she has comprehended enough, I will pass her comprehension to Forefather. Dongbua Shuang stood up. When Forefather Golden Firmament heard this, he looked at Dongbua Shuang and nodded. All right. When the time comes, I will pass you a copy of the heart sword diagram that I have comprehended. With that, Forefather Golden Firmament turned and left. Dongbua Shuang watched silently and revealed a smile. He was clear that the two of them had something they were wary of. The other party was wary of Dongbua Shuiying's strength. If they really fell out with each other, with Dongbua Shuiying's gross speed, he would definitely step into the Paragon realm. Moreover, he was also a member of the Army of Destruction. By then, Forefather Golden Firmament's days would be even harder. After all, Dongbua Shuiying was comparable to him, but how many years had he cultivated? This kind of person was indeed not suitable to be an enemy. Dongbua Shuiying was also wary of him. What he was afraid of was that once he shed all pretense of cordiality, Dong Boyu and Qin Ya would most likely suffer a calamity. Furthermore, he was not sure if he could kill Forefather Golden Firmament. After all, ordinary paragons could not kill Forefather Golden Firmament. His escape technique was too powerful. Both sides were wary of him. This was also the main reason why they could reconcile. However, Forefather Golden Firmament was a creature from the immortal world. He was naturally ferocious. If they did not give him a way out, Forefather Golden Firmament would still fall out with him. Hence, Dongbua Shuiying repeatedly said that Yu Jingqiu was the most innocent. He, Dongbua Shuiying, had already made a big concession so that Forefather Golden Firmament could accept it. This kind of escape technique is extremely powerful, and he has a strong background. Moreover, he has nothing to worry about. If he goes crazy, it will be a headache. Dongbua Shuiying nodded slightly. Both sides did not make any vows. At their level, promises were very important. Moreover, both sides were not willing to be enemies. Of course, if a supreme treasure appeared, they would still fall out with each other. For the sake of a supreme treasure, the Temporal Island Lord, Empress Qianhe, and the myriad God Palace head would fall out with each other and plot against Ruler Nile and Blood Blade. Dongbua Shuiying headed towards the garden where eldest senior Hui Ming and Chihua Laozu were. Along the way, Master, a man and a woman rushed over respectfully. The man was tall and skinny with a pale face, while the woman had enchanting red hair. White bones, Shui man, what's the matter? Dongbua Shuiying looked at the two. This man was the treasure spirit of the Howling Devil cult leader's Eden. Dongbua Shuiying named him White Bones. As for this enchanting red-haired woman, she was transformed from the blood-creeping flower. Because Dongbua Shuiying's strength and treasures had increased greatly, he naturally began to nurture the absolutely loyal blood-creeping flower. With the amount of treasures Dongbua Shuiying had, he could easily allow the blood-creeping flower to evolve and enter the world deity stage. Most likely, the blood-creeping flower would grow to the same level as the sky-reaching vine in the future. To become even stronger? That would be too difficult. Shui Man immediately obediently took out a scroll with both hands. Master, this is the list of gifts. Oh? Dongbua Shuiying stretched out his hand to receive it. The gifts were mainly received by Shui Man and White Bones. After receiving them, they would directly place them into the Eden treasure. The Eden treasure was carried by Dongbua Shuiying at all times. Only the treasure spirit, White Bones, could directly place the treasures into the Eden treasure. Even though he had received so many gifts, firstly, he had yet to check them all. Secondly, Dongbua Shuiying had asked White Bones, Shui Man and the rest to come up with a list of gifts. After all, the gifts were important. In the future, if he had important matters to attend to, the gifts he gave must not be too light. Hua! He opened the scroll. On the scroll, the gifts given by Monarch Green, Paragon Huiqing, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, and the rest were recorded in detail. Of course, the gift from Senior Uncle Blackbird, the Black Feather, was given to Dongbua Shuiying. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the records on the scroll and smiled. The records were quite interesting. For example, Monarch Green's gift was described as a palm-sized sculpture invisible to the naked eye. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master's gift was described as a circular plate with decorative designs. These were all simple descriptions. As for what use they had? What kind of treasures were they? After all, the knowledge of the treasure spirit and the blood-creeping flower was limited. However, as long as they could let Dongbush Shuang know which treasures were given by whom, it would be sufficient. Eldest senior brother is truly considerate. Even though Dongbush Shuang had yet to check them one by one, Monarch Green's gift was indeed very special. It was invisible to the naked eye, but through the heaven and earth energy, he could check it. It was a palm-sized sculpture of a human figure sitting cross-legged. After pondering for a while, Dongbush Shuang already understood what kind of treasure it was. Naturally, he also understood Monarch Green's intentions. Chapter 616. Dongbush Shuang wasn't in a hurry to check the gift. After keeping the scroll, he immediately went to see big senior brother Wei Ming and Chihua Laozu. The moment he entered the garden, he saw big senior brother Wei Ming and Chihua Laozu sitting there chatting. Senior brother Wei Ming, old ancestor. Dongbush Shuang smiled as he walked over. Snow Eagle, sit, Chihua Laozu said. Dongbush Shuang sat down as well. He looked at big senior brother Wei Ming and said, "Oh right, senior brother, I don't know much about old ancestor Black Devil. However, if there's a chance, we should think of a way to kill both his main body and his avatar. If we want to make a move, we must do it cleanly." Wei Ming shook his head and said, "Master is like a father to me. How could I dare to forget Master's enmity? It's just that old ancestor Black Devil is too cautious and cunning. Ever since you became the personal disciple of Bloodblade, one of his avatars has been staying in the Temporal Island. One of the clones of the Black Devil ancestor has been staying in the Temporal Island for a long time. Tell me, what can we do?" "He has been staying in the Temporal Island?" Dongbush Shuang was startled. The Temporal Island was the place where the Temporal Island Lord stayed. It was the base that the Temporal Island Lord had been managing for many years. The place was filled with danger, and the Temporal Island Lord could display even greater strength there. Even someone as strong as Bloodblade would have to be mentally prepared to lose one of his avatars if he dared to kill his way in. Then is there any way to lure his main body out? Dongbush Shuang asked. Old ancestor Black Devil wasn't considered strong. If they were to fight, Dongbush Shuang had the confidence to kill him. It's impossible. Wei Ming shook his head. Haha, it's impossible. Chihua Laozu added. Snow Eagle, you have never interacted with Black Devil. This old ancestor Black Devil is cunning and sinister. He is cautious and afraid of death. When you became the personal disciple of God Emperor, you were only a stage 2 world deity, right? Therefore, he cautiously decided to stay in the Temporal Island for a long period of time. Logically speaking, his place of cultivation was also within the territory of the Temporal Island. With the strength of the Temporal Island Lord, he could travel through time and space and arrive at his place of cultivation in the blink of an eye. However, he still moved to the Temporal Island. Dongbush Shuang frowned. Also, did you realize that after you became God Emperor's personal disciple, he has never acted against you? He didn't even act against your children and wife. Chihua Laozu said. Dongbush Shuang nodded his head. He looks down on me. He looks down on Wei Ming. But he's afraid of you. Chihua Laozu shook his head. When you became a disciple of Bloodblade, the first time you revealed your strength was that of a stage 2 world deity. You're also a lord of the material world, so he won't have the chance to get rid of you. I could only watch helplessly as you became stronger and stronger. So, I decided not to provoke you and didn't dare to use any tricks. I was afraid of angering you and making your killing intent even stronger. Chihua Laozu laughed. Honestly speaking, you and Hongchen have no feelings for each other, and your killing intent towards Black Demon isn't that strong either. Am I right? Dongbush Shuang was stunned for a moment, then nodded his head to admit this point. Indeed. After all, he had never met Holy Lord Hongchen. In fact, if Holy Lord Hongqin hadn't thrown the Crimson Rock Mountain into the Xia people's world, the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God wouldn't have schemed against the Xia people's world. The Xia people's world wouldn't have suffered so many disasters, Dongwu Shuang wouldn't have been poisoned by the Six Ghosts' resentment, and his wife wouldn't have nearly died. So, Dongwu Shuang felt rather awkward towards Holy Lord Hongqin. It could only be said that Dongwu Shuang acknowledged this kindness. As for killing Forefather Black Demon, other than karma, the main reason was that Forefather Black Demon was a person who wouldn't shrink from any crime. Dongwu Shuiying's killing intent was most likely due to Forefather Black Demon being too evil. If Hongqin was evil and Forefather Black Demon was benevolent, Dongwu Shuiying would not have acted. That bit of karma did not affect him too much. Your killing intent isn't strong, and he isn't willing to provoke you. Thus, the chances of you acting are lower. Chihua Laozi said. Even so, one of his avatars is still hiding in the temporal island. Indeed, he is cunning and cautious. Dongwu Shuang nodded. If he wasn't crafty, how could he have schemed against Red Dust, causing Reddist's true body to be destroyed? Patriarch Scarlet Flame shook his head. Red Dust is too arrogant. He wasn't willing to join the Sovereign. If he were to rely on the Blood Blade, allowing one of his avatars to live within the territory of the Bloodshed God Palace, the Blood Blade could instantly appear to protect him. How could Forefather Black Demon kill him then? Dongwu Shuang nodded. This was the benefit of relying on a ruler. A ruler could not protect him at all times. But as long as he was within a certain range, a ruler could appear instantaneously. Relying on a ruler will allow you to enjoy the benefits, but you have to pay a price too. Chihua Laozi said. You are his disciple, and he doesn't have any requests for you. But most powerful existences, such as the Bloodshed Tavern Master, or helping the Bloodshed God Emperor collect many materials, regardless, they would have long-term missions, and they would have to serve the God Emperor. Everyone has their own choices. Huiming said. Since teacher chose this path, he is naturally willing to bear the burden. Forefather Black Demon is cunning, and killing him is extremely difficult. Furthermore, junior disciple brother, you have many things to worry about. If you can't kill Black Demon, you might end up causing trouble in the future. Dongwu Shuang nodded. His wife and children were indeed his worries. And those powerful existences who had lived for a long time had no worries. I can only put this matter aside for now. Dongwu Shuang thought to himself. Facing such a cunning Forefather Black Demon, even a paragon would not have the chance to kill him, much less him. Just as Dongwu Shuang decided to give up, he suddenly understood. What a Black Demon! He didn't anger me in the slightest, which means that I won't have any killing intent. If Black Demon kept scheming against me, for example, my family, etc., I would truly be enraged. But if Dongwu Shuang went crazy, he wouldn't do such a thing. Even if he hid in the temporal island, the Blood Blade was the #1 assassin in the deity world and abyss. If he wanted to assassinate Black Demon, he should be able to do so even if he had to sacrifice a clone. However, the price was huge. Dongwu Shuang was a Blood Blade Tavern Master. He was very clear about the price one had to pay to hire the God Emperor to kill a powerful existence. Most likely, a paragon would have to use up all of his treasures. However, others would have to pay a huge price, but Dongwu Shuang was a personal disciple. If he was truly enraged, the God Emperor would sympathize with him and might lower his request and help him once. This was also the reason why Black Demon didn't provoke Dongwu Shuang at all. Although Dongwu Shuang understood, he didn't have any killing intent. After all, an enemy who knew when to advance and retreat and didn't come looking for trouble was hard to provoke. Black Demon was cautious and cunning. He didn't leave any chances. Even big senior brother Huiming, who had deep feelings for Hongqin, put everything aside. Oh right, Forefather. Dongwu Shuang looked at Chihua Laozi. You said you have something to say? Huiming also looked at Chihua Laozi. I hesitated and didn't want to say it. Chihua Laozi's face was slightly red. However, this is very important to me. Snow Eagle, you are strong enough now. Therefore, I still thicken my face to trouble you. Of course, Snow Eagle, if you helped me, you would have repaid the karma of me helping you back then. What karma? If Forefather didn't help me back then, my entire life would have been ruined. Dombush Shuang said. Forefather, your problem is my problem. Moreover, don't feel that it's troublesome. I'm a material world overlord. I don't have any true danger of dying. Why would I be afraid of trouble? Chihuahua Laozu was even more moved. For example, Dombush Shuang and Paragon Huiqing, they were people who would repay a huge favor with their bodies. They wouldn't care if it ended after repaying the karma. Even if the karma of the laws of the heaven and earth was repaid, the karma in their hearts was still there. Back then, Dombush Shuang had truly despaired. When Chihuahua Laozu helped him, his life was filled with color once again. It's like this. Chihuahua Laozu didn't hesitate and said, You all know that I often cultivate in the sun star. Dombush Shuang and Big Senior Brother Huiming were both listening. The sun star is in existence on the same level as the dark abyss and the material world. The deeper you go, the hotter it gets. Even rulers would be burned to death if they dared to enter the core of the sun star. Chihuahua Laozu started explaining everything. Chapter 617. As Dombush Shuang grew stronger, Paragon Huiqing and Bloodblade provided him with a large amount of information, allowing him to understand more about the Sun Star and Moon Star. The Sun Star and Moon Star both had their own laws of nature, and their tyrannical laws were not any weaker than those of the material world or the dark abyss. Moreover, they were very different from the material world and the dark abyss, because the material world and the dark abyss were essentially cradles that nurtured countless lifeforms, while the material world protected countless weak lifeforms. Although the dark abyss was more evil and savage, it also gave birth to countless demons. Even outsiders would be repelled when they entered, and the lifeforms within the dark abyss would be led to kill them. But the Sun Star and Moon Star were different. They were not suitable for living beings. In fact, they went to the extremes and were extremely aggressive. Forget about going deeper. Just the surface layer was enough to freeze stage 4 world deities to death or burn them to death. The deeper one went, the more dangerous it became. Even rulers would eventually lose their lives. It could be said that the danger far exceeded any ancient ruin. They were naturally born from the vast universe. They were the two celestial bodies that stood on the same level as the material world and the dark abyss. Their might was beyond imagination, and they attracted the attention of powerful true gods. The Sun Star represents the pinnacle of fire, and the laws it contains are even stronger than rulers. Chihuahua Laozu said. But if one is merely on the surface of the Sun Star, the laws one can sense are the most indistinct. The deeper one goes, the clearer the feeling becomes. According to what I know, the outermost layer of the Sun Star is the raging flames on its surface. What looks like raging flames is actually liquid. This is the first layer of the Sun Star, which we call the Sun Sea. The Sun Sea is incomparably hot, and most powerful existences are confident of surviving in it. After passing through the Sun Sea, one can finally reach the thick solid layer. The strange substance in the solid layer is called sunstone. This layer is the second layer of the Sun Star, the sunstone layer. The sunstone layer is much more dangerous, and even powerful existences would find it hard to survive the occasional strand of flame. Not to mention the many other dangers. Legend has it that below the sunstone layer, there is a third layer, the sunwave layer. Below that, there is a fourth layer, the void black mud layer. Further down is the fifth layer, the sun abyssal pond. In the deepest part of the sun abyssal pond is the legendary sixth layer, the Sun Star core. Chihuahua Laozu said slowly, but there was a hint of anticipation in his voice. He had been cultivating on the solar star for a very long time. The solar star was practically his home. Dombush Shuang and eldest senior brother Huiming were listening at the side. They knew this too. I originally had a sun star nucleus stone, Chihuahua Laozu said in a low voice. With the help of the sun star nucleus stone, I can protect my body, greatly reducing the damage that the flames can do to my body. Although I didn't dare to venture deep into the sunstone layer, I could at least use the Sunstar Core Stone to sit cross-legged on the surface of the sunstone layer. When I touch the sunstone layer, I can sense the many laws and profound mysteries of the Sunstar dozens of times more clearly, which will greatly increase my cultivation speed. The Sunstar Nucleus Stone is extremely precious. Not a single one has appeared in the past 100 billion years, Chihua Laozi said. From the birth of the universe until now, the total number of Sunstar Nucleus Stones that have appeared is extremely small. Those who obtained it would view it as a treasure. Even paragons and rulers would rarely exchange for the Sunstar Nucleus Stone. Dongbua Shuang and Huiming nodded. But 30 million years ago, the bamboo saint of the two saints of the Ink race found out that I had a Sunstar Nucleus Stone. He suddenly attacked me, destroyed my body that was cultivating on the solar star, and snatched my Sunstar Nucleus Stone, Chihua Laozi said in a low and calm voice. He looked calm, but it was clear that he was suppressing his boundless rage. Cultivation was about fighting for opportunities. Chihua Laozi's most precious treasure was snatched away. Such a huge enmity was absolutely irreconcilable. Bamboo Saint? Dongbua Shuang frowned. The two saints of the Ink race were powerful existences that didn't rely on any forces in the deity world. Among them, the Bamboo Saint was considered slightly better. He was ranked 53rd on the Cosmos Deity Demon list. He was one rank lower than Dongbua Shuang, and their strength was on the same level. But the one who truly established the position of the two saints of the Ink race was the eldest, the Leaf Saint. He was a paragon. Even though he was an ordinary paragon, and couldn't be compared to Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master or mysterious North Imperial Empress. But the Tao that he opened was slightly more peculiar and unique. It allowed Leaf Saint to be free and unfettered, and didn't need to rely on any forces. The two of them came from the same race, and their relationship was extremely good. Forefather, what do you want me to do? Dongbua Shuang asked. If he wanted to deal with the Bamboo Saint, just him alone wouldn't be able to deal with the other party. Even if they fought, the other party had an even stronger paragon behind his back. I don't want to take revenge, Chihua Laozi said. The difference in strength is too great, and the one behind him is even more powerful. What I want to do is to obtain another Sunstar Nucleus Stone. The flame is what I've been pursuing for countless years. If I can open a Tao, it will definitely be on the Tao of Flames. Without the Sunstar Nucleus Stone, I don't even dare to touch the Sunstone layer. I can only cultivate in the Sun seawater. My senses are too blurry, and my cultivation efficiency isn't even 1,000th of what it used to be. If I continue cultivating like this, it will be impossible for me to break through. Among those that I know and have a good relationship with, only you, Dongbua, can help me obtain another Sunstar Nucleus Stone. From Chihua Laozi's point of view, Dongbua Shuiying's strength and connections were much stronger than his. He had the blood blade behind his back, and he had a good relationship with Monarch Green, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, Paragon Huiqing, and others. His connections were 10 times, 100 times stronger than his. Obtain a Sunstar Nucleus Stone? Dongbua Shuiying frowned. This was a huge problem for him. There are 2 ways to obtain a Sunstar Nucleus Stone, Dongbua Shuiying said. The first way is that the Sunstar Nucleus Stone originates from the deepest part of the Sun star, the Sunstar Nucleus. Usually, after countless years, fragments of the Sunstar Nucleus would occasionally fly out, passing through the Sun abyss, passing through the void black soil layer, and being discovered by cultivators. Chihua Laozi nodded. Back then, I was lucky enough to discover a unique glow on the surface of the Sunstar Nucleus. I controlled my weapon to dig it out, and that was how I found the Sunstar Nucleus Stone. That Sunstar Nucleus Stone was about the size of a fingernail, and weighed about half a kilogram. That's because of your good luck, forefather. It should be some fragment that was coincidentally shifted to the surface of the Sunstar Nucleus Stone, Dongbua Shuiying said. But it's almost impossible to find another one like that. After all, it has been over 100 billion years since a sun-star nucleus stone has appeared. Or perhaps, some powerful existence managed to obtain it by luck, but didn't make it public. But no matter what, no one would be willing to trade it. Dongbu Shuang said. In that case, there's only one other way. Using a large amount of void black soil to refine the void black soil and condense its essence into a sun-star nucleus stone. Dongbu Shuang said. This was also discovered by the cultivators of the deity realm and abyss. The void black soil was the fourth layer of the sun-star nucleus stone. The void black soil itself was extremely aggressive, and its heat was so intense that only sovereigns could withstand it. However, once it was refined, its essence would condense into a solid form, and it would become a sun-star nucleus stone. Chihuahua Laozu felt slightly ashamed. I know it's difficult, and I've been hesitating for a long time. But as time passed, and there was no longer any hope of cultivating, I decided to be thick-skinned. Forefather, there's no need to say any more. Leave this matter to me, Dongbu Shuang said. Although it would be troublesome, this was the first time Chihuahua Laozu had spoken. Furthermore, it involved the forefather's path of cultivation. No matter what, he had to help. Chapter 618. Hearing Dongbu Shuang agree, Chihuahua Laozu heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he said, the price to condense it into a sun-star nucleus stone is huge. I will bear all the treasures required. If I can't, I will ask Snow Eagle for help. No need, Dongbu Shuang said. Chihuahua Laozu's expression darkened. Snow Eagle, I know that you will need many favors in order to accomplish this. You might even need to pay a special price that cannot be compared to some treasures. If you want me to do nothing, I would rather not have the sun-star nucleus stone. Dongbu Shuang was stunned. He understood that as a powerful existence, he had his pride. Chihuahua Laozu came to ask for help because of his cultivation. But if he asked Dongbu Shuang to pay for the treasures, it would hurt his pride. All right. Dongbu Shuang smiled and nodded. Since forefather said so, I will listen to you. In terms of treasures. Even though Chihuahua Laozu had been accumulating for a long time, Dongbu Ying's foundation was much deeper. Disregarding the true god weapon flying knife, the original copy of the absolute art blood demon scripture, the talisman, the feather given by fifth master uncle, and other precious treasures. For this opening feast, the gifts they gave were not light. Stage 4 world deities gave at least a few 100 million god crystals. True gods naturally gave more. Monarch Green, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, and Paragon Huaqing were ranked in the top 20 of the Cosmos deity demon list. Their gifts were even more extraordinary. All of these added up was terrifying. But Dongbu Shuang was currently extremely powerful. He had the combat power of a paragon. Since he was strong, these gifts were merely icing on the cake. It was a normal courtesy to reciprocate. Just like back then, when Dongbu Shuang was still a supervisor and his abilities were still relatively weak, those Stage 4 world deities wanted to form a relationship with him. They sent a large number of gifts to Dongbu Shuang, but Dongbu Shuang did not dare to accept them. At that time, Dongbu Shuang's strength was still weak. At that time, Dongbu Shuang gave him hundreds of millions of divinity crystals as a gift, which was a huge favor. But now, to Dongbu Shuang, a gift of a few 100 million deity crystals was nothing. The fact that Dongbu Shuang was willing to accept him and allow him to attend the banquet meant that he was giving him face. Many world gods were not qualified to participate in the opening banquet. Of course, it was also the opening banquet where everyone came to congratulate him. If it was an ordinary banquet, there was no need to give gifts. Moreover, it was only Dongbu Shuang. If it was an ordinary Stage 4 universe god who transcended and became an almighty, there wouldn't be too many almighties who came to congratulate him, and the gifts they gave wouldn't be too expensive. Gifting was also dependent on the target. Oh right, Senior Hui Ming, forefather, Dongbu Shuang said. Both of you know that I have obtained the original copy of the first half of the blood demon scripture. And meant, Chihua Laozu and Huiming heard Dongbua Shui Ying's words and had their own guesses. Do you want to learn this? Blood Demon Scripture? Dongbua Shui smiled and asked. Let me say this in advance. There are 2 ways to learn this. Blood Demon Scripture. The first method requires the support of countless souls and is extremely evil. Moreover, it would be hard for one to achieve much in the future by relying on this shortcut. The second method is to rely on one's own cultivation. If you want to learn it, you can only rely on the second method. There weren't many who were qualified for him to impart the Blood Demon Scripture to them. Even if he did, Dongbua Shui forbade the first method. This was because he wasn't willing to impart the Blood Demon Scripture himself and bring about countless sins. This old man will be thick-skinned and learn it. Chihua Laozu smiled and said, I might be able to gain an epiphany if I try to comprehend it. I'll pass. Senior brother Huiming smiled and said. Dongbua Shui and Chihua Laozu looked at Huiming in astonishment. Not learning it? It was an absolute art that came knocking on his door. Not learning it? Huiming, you can use it as a reference even if you don't cultivate it. Chihua Laozu persuaded. It might be of help to you in your transcendence. There's no need. Huiming shook his head. The Blood Demon Scripture is one of the 6 great legacies of the Fiend Ancestor. It is extremely evil and not suitable for me. My current realm is not high enough. It's best that I don't read it. The 6 great legacies of the Fiend Ancestor? Who is the Fiend Ancestor? Chihua Laozu asked curiously. Dongbua Shui was secretly astonished. This senior brother Huiming actually knew about the Fiend Ancestor? Patriarch, you should know that our vast universe is not just limited to our epoch. Huiming looked at Chihua Laozu. I've heard of that before. Chihua Laozu nodded. Everything has a beginning and an end. The universe also has epochs. Huiming nodded. In the many epochs of the universe, there are 2 most impressive ones. One is the owner of Lake Heart Island and the other is the Fiend Ancestor. I've heard of the owner of Lake Heart Island. There's actually another Fiend Ancestor that is on par with him? Chihua Laozu nodded. Dongbua Shui silently watched his senior brother. Senior brother Huiming actually knew so many secrets. He probably had some fortuitous encounters. On the same day, Chihua Laozu first swore an oath before learning the first half of the Blood Demon Scripture. As for Huiming, he bade farewell and left. There were not many people who learned the Blood Demon Scripture. Monarch Mo Shui's true deity heart was not far from collapsing and he was about to reincarnate. Jing Qiu had already spoken up for her father. Dongbua Shui did not hesitate, and allowed his father-in-law to learn the first half of the Blood Demon Scripture. But even if he learned it, Dongbua Shui guessed that it would not be of much help to him in transcending. Other than that, Jing Qiu and the White Sand City Lord also learned it. As for the others, including his children, he did not teach them. This was because the Blood Demon Scripture was different from other absolute arts. It was extremely difficult to learn. Even with the Howling Devil cult leader's strength and the help of countless souls, he still had to spend a long time to learn it. One could see how difficult it was to learn it. Dongbua Shui felt that it was not suitable to teach it to his children. As for the White Sand City Lord, his old brother White Sand was getting old, and he might not be able to reach the 4th layer in this lifetime. Regardless of whether it was useful or not, he should learn it first. Big brother Huiqing. Dongbua Shui immediately went to see Paragon Huiqing. Paragon Huiqing did not leave after the banquet, and was currently staying in his mansion. Paragon Huiqing was sitting on a chair, his right hand lightly tapping on the armrest as he hummed softly with his eyes narrowed. The red-haired, red-browed, red-skinned Paragon Huiqing seemed to be in an extremely good mood. He raised his head and saw Dongbua Shui approaching. He revealed a smile. Brother Dongbua, have you settled the matter with Golden Firmament? Even if you did not look for me, I would have looked for you. The matter with old ancestor Golden Firmament has been settled. Actually, he is not willing to shed all pretense of cordiality with me. Dongbua Shui also sat at the side. I wonder why Big Brother Hua Cheng is looking for me. Haha, when I was strolling around your mansion, I met your daughter and even gave her some pointers. She actually told me that she wants to take me as her master, but I also feel that this last is not bad. I wonder if Brother Donghua is willing to let your daughter take me as her master. Paragon Huiqing laughed. Donghua Shuang was overjoyed and said, That is exactly what I wish for, that is exactly what I wish for. Regarding the matter of his children taking him as their master, Donghua Shuang and his wife had discussed it before. They did not care about ordinary powerful existences. After all, it was not too bad for them to teach their own children. Unless it was a personal disciple of a paragon, or a powerful existence. But this was too difficult. I hope that Big Brother Huiqing will give more pointers to Qingyao in the future and bear with this child. Her temperament is a little overbearing. Donghua Shuang pleaded. Haha, how can you talk to your daughter like that? I feel that your daughter's temperament is not bad. Paragon Huiqing said. Since you have agreed, then this matter is decided. I will definitely teach her with all my heart. But as for how I teach her, Brother Donghua, don't blame me. Your disciple doesn't need to care about me. Donghua Shuang immediately said. Paragon Huiqing nodded. Oh right, you came to look for me. Is there something you need? There is. Donghua Shuang said. It's about the void black soil. Asterisk the first was even worse. Chapter 619. Void black soil? Paragon Huiqing looked curiously at Donghua Shuang. I want to get a sun-star nucleus stone, there's no other way, I have to refine it from the void black soil. Donghua Shuang explained. This void black soil, I would like to ask Big Brother Huiqing for help. Paragon Huiqing frowned. The void black soil is just a small matter, not worth mentioning. But to refine it, the void black soil is just the most basic material. I still need 12 other precious materials. I also need to invite experts to refine it bit by bit. But other than that, what else can I do? Is there anyone willing to trade for the sun-star nucleus stone? Donghua Shuang said helplessly. Amen. Paragon Huiqing nodded. The sun-star nucleus stone, other than the hard work of refining, came from the sun-star nucleus. That was the most terrifying and dangerous place. Even rulers would be instantly turned to dust. The sun-star nucleus stone was extremely precious, just the size of a fingernail, was enough for many powerful existences to exchange for it. It was much more precious than Eden treasures. So when Chihua Laozu opened his mouth, he felt a little ashamed. He really had no other way. Only Donghua Shuang had some hope. I've never heard of anyone willing to trade. I originally had one, but it was a pity that my true body died and I lost it. Paragon Huiqing said. Forget about the trade, even if someone was willing, the price would be ridiculously high. Right. Donghua Shuang nodded. There are 3 problems in refining it. 1 is sufficient void black soil, 2 are 12 precious materials, and 3 is to find experts to refine it. Paragon Huiqing said. Amongst them, the void black soil is the easiest, the 12 precious materials are slightly more troublesome, and finding experts to refine it is the most troublesome. Donghua Shuang laughed. I'll settle them one by one. Leave the void black soil to me. How much do you need? Paragon Huiqing asked. At least 5 million kilograms of void black soil, Shuang said. Only 5 million kilograms of void black soil could condense a fingernail-sized sun-star nucleus stone weighing half a kilogram. I'll give you 20 million, Paragon Huiqing said straightforwardly. Thanks. Donghua Shuang smiled. We are brothers, there's no need to thank me. This is very simple for me. Paragon Huiqing smiled. Donghua Shuang nodded. The best way to obtain the black void mud was to enter the 4th layer of the sun star, the black void mud layer. There was black void mud everywhere, and one could get as much as they wanted. Based on the level of danger, the 4th layer of the sun star, the void black mud layer, was something that only hegemons could safely survive in. They wouldn't have to worry about the flames that were born from the void black mud. However, there were some top-notch supremacies who could enter the void black soil layer of the sun star. For example, Qin Jun. He could do it. For example, amongst the peak paragons, Paragon Huicheng, who was most proficient in flames, could also do it. For Paragon Huicheng, entering the void black soil stratum was simply like returning home. It was easy and relaxed. Therefore, gathering 10 million kilograms of void black soil only required a little more time. Gathering the 12 precious materials might be more troublesome, Paragon Huicheng said. Inviting experts to temper them would be even more troublesome. Other than Bloodblade and Empress Qianhe, only Ripple Lady Planet Lord, who is most proficient in refining, knows how to temper. Tempering is an extremely complicated matter. Moreover, during the tempering process, one must be fully focused and cannot relax. Once one relaxes, the tempering will fail. Inviting a ruler would probably be very difficult. Otherwise, we can only invite Ripple Lady Planet Lord. However, she is the only paragon under Empress Qianhe, and Empress Qianhe dotes on her a lot. She spends most of her time refining artifacts, and rarely goes out. She is very cold to other cultivators, so it would be difficult to invite her. Dongbua Shuang nodded. This was indeed the greatest difficulty. Inviting a ruler? Although his master treated him very well, no matter how good he was, he couldn't rely on his master's doting on him and ask him to do this and that. This would only make his master loathe him. After all, giving him an inch and asking for a foot was already a very overboard thing. Between powerful existences, there was more emphasis on fair trade. If he wanted something, he had to pay a price. When the time comes, I'll go pay a visit to Ripple Lady Planet Lord, Dongbua Shuang said. Everything can be discussed. And then gather the 12 precious materials first. Once you're done, go see Ripple Lady Planet Lord, Paragon Huicheng said. I'll make a trip to the Sun Star tomorrow. I've trouble, big brother. Dongbua Shuang thanked him. That night, under the witness of Dongbua Shuang, Jing Qiu, Monarch Mo Shui, Chihua Laozu, White Sand City Lord, and others, Dongbua Qin Yao officially acknowledged Paragon Huicheng as his master, becoming his disciple. Ha ha ha, although I've accepted 2 disciples before, I didn't have the patience to teach them. They didn't become powerful existences, and died long ago. Paragon Huicheng sat there, looking at Dongbua Qin Yao, who was kowtowing to him. He laughed. I've been imprisoned on the island in the heart of the lake for a long time, and my patience has been honed. Qin Yao, you're my only disciple now. You have to work hard, and cultivate to become a powerful existence. Only then will I, as his master, and your father be able to gain face. Yes, master. Dongbua Qin Yao immediately replied. And then, master doesn't have any other gifts for you. This is a treasure I chanced upon in the ancient cave dwelling. I'll give it to you for protection. As Paragon Huicheng spoke, he threw out a red pearl. Dongbua Qin Yao stretched out her hand to receive it. The moment she tried to refine it, the red pearl immediately transformed into a blurry red light that enveloped Dongbua Qin Yao's entire body, transforming into a fiery red robe. Dongbua Shuang and Jing Qiu watched happily from the side. The path of cultivation was bumpy, and although they were strong now, it was hard to say what would happen in the future. To be able to let their daughter become the disciple of such a powerful master, both of them were extremely satisfied. Monarch Mo Shui was all smiles. Even Dongbua Yu, who had been feeling lonely recently, revealed a smile at this moment. On the second day, Paragon Huicheng, who had just taken in a disciple, quietly left for the Sun Star. And Dongbua Shuang first started to gather precious materials through Bloodshed Tavern. Bloodshed Tavern's information network was also rather good, and very quickly they had gathered 7 of the precious materials. As for the remaining 5, they had no choice but to release the news and publicly gather these 5 precious materials. As long as it was a powerful existence, they would be able to guess that Dongbua Shuang was planning to refine a Sun Star nucleus stone. But Dongbua Shuang wasn't afraid. With his strength, he wasn't afraid of anyone snatching it. He even directly announced that he was going to the Sun Star to cultivate, and needed a Sun Star nucleus stone. But who was willing to exchange for it? The news was released. As expected, no one was willing to exchange for the Sun's star nucleus stone. But the 5 precious materials were gradually being gathered. There were powerful existences who came and straightforwardly said, "This 5-colored phoenix blood stone is a gift to Monarch. It's just a toy." The value of precious materials was limited. Even if others said they didn't care, Dongbush Shuang still offered items of equivalent value to exchange for it. Otherwise, if he took away someone else's treasure without giving anything, his reputation would be ruined. In the future, who would dare to exchange for it? When Dongbush Shuang was weak, it was tough for him to gather demon bone ash. But now, he was able to gather rarer precious materials much faster. This was the difference in status. Now that he was stronger and had a higher status, powerful existences were all willing to trade with him. They didn't care about those precious materials, they cared about getting closer to him. After all, if they were more familiar with each other, it would be easier for them to ask Dongbush Shuang for help in the future. Time passed. Paragon Huiqing went to the Sun Star for a month before returning. He brought back a total of 10 million kilograms of void black soil. As for Dongbush Shuang, he had a headache collecting 12 precious materials. He had only collected 10, and there were still 2 that he had no news about. The 2nd chapter was over. Continue writing the 3rd chapter. Chapter 620. Within the underground hall, on an ice-blue carpet, Dongbush Shuang was sitting cross-legged, deep in thought. There were 3 major problems in condensing the Sun's star nucleus stone. Gathering the 12 materials was ranked 2nd, and the difficulty was even higher than gathering the void black soil. This was because half of the materials were extremely rare. Although their usage was limited, their value was not high. But they were extremely rare. It was not easy to gather them. Currently, he was still lacking 2. The news has long been spread to the various powerful existences. Those who have the materials and are willing to trade have already done so. Those who are unwilling would probably be useless no matter how long they wait. Dongbush Shuang frowned. Now I can only hope that someone among the countless world deities will obtain these 2 materials. There were many world deities scattered throughout the deity world and abyss. The possibility of them obtaining precious materials under fortuitous encounters was actually higher than that of almighty beings. Dongbush Shuang had already spread the news that he wanted to gather 2 materials: 7-leaf stone fruit and jade heart grass root. Although Dongbush Shuang was vexed, he could only put it aside. There's no other way. I'll just take it slow. If he couldn't gather them in a year, he would spend 10 years or 100 years. Or even 10,000 years or 1,000,000 years. There would definitely be a day when he could gather them all. Let me start investigating these treasures. Shuang began researching through the gifts given by the guests during this prefecture opening banquet. He checked through them one by one, those from world deities, ordinary true gods, and even those from Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master, Paragon Huiqing, and Monarch Green. The stronger one is, the more precious the gift. Dongbush Shuang laughed. The guests had their own standards and knew what level of gift they should give. This was a common practice in the deity world and abyss. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, Old Ancestor Golden Firmament's gift was very shabby, but it was already not bad for him to be able to give a gift. Only the gifts from the 3 paragons and 5th Master Uncle are special. Dongbush Shuang thought. This is from Big Brother Huiqing. Dongbush Shuang waved his hand, and a wine flask appeared in front of him. It was tightly sealed, and the moment it was opened, a fragrance could be smelled. Boom! A formless energy rushed into his true deity heart, and Dongbush Shuang could not help but shudder. Fire Dragon Blood Fruit Wine? Dongbush Shuang immediately understood what kind of treasure this was. The Fire Dragon Blood Fruit Wine was specifically used to aid one's cultivation. Just a whiff of it would cause one's deity heart to tremble, and if one drank a mouthful of it, one's true deity heart would be stimulated to its full potential. In fact, one might even fall into a half-conscious, half-intoxicated state. But it was precisely this unique state that allowed one to cultivate and comprehend the fire dragon blood fruit wine. A cup of fire dragon blood fruit wine was already very precious, but this pot was even more valuable. Big brother Ying is really considerate. Dongbu Shuang understood that such a supplementary item would be of great help to transcend. Dongbu Shuang kept the flask of fire dragon blood fruit wine and took out a round plate. There were patterns on the plate, and it was exceptionally beautiful. However, after observing it for a while, Dongbu Shuang could tell. It's a formation plate. It's the core of a powerful array, Dongbu Shuang said. Looking at the appearance of the formation plate, it should be the core of an array left behind in some ancient ruins. Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Lord actually managed to get it out. This mansion of mine has just been constructed, and it is indeed lacking a sufficiently powerful array. Imperial Lord Mansion was an array that he had comprehended himself, and it had a deterrent effect on Stage 4 experts. However, it didn't have any deterrent effect on existences of the same level. With this formation plate as the core, I'll set up some supplementary array formations. Dongbu Shuang revealed a smile. The gift from Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Lord was something that he needed. Finally, Dongbu Shuang flipped his hand, but it was empty. In reality, there was a palm-sized sculpture on his palm. It was just that it was invisible to the naked eye. If one used their consciousness to sense it, they would be able to sense that the palm-sized sculpture was in the form of a human sitting cross-legged. Qin Yao is a disciple of Big Brother Huqing, so I'll give this treasure to Qin Yao. Dongbu Shuang nodded lightly. This was a unique treasure that could be used by the true deity heart. One must know that even Dongbu Shuang and Jingqiu didn't have a treasure that could be used by the true deity heart. However, given the strength of their deity hearts, this unique treasure was useless. The weaker one was, the more obvious the help it would provide. In terms of value, the fire dragon blood fruit wine was comparable to the sculpture, while the formation plate was slightly inferior. This is the most precious. Dongbu Shuang kept the other items and took out the black feather. The black feather that Martial Uncle Blackbird gave Dongbu Shuang had indeed shocked him. From this feather, he could tell that Martial Uncle Blackbird's body was much stronger than his extreme annihilation mysterious body. The difference was ridiculously huge. Dongbu Shuang estimated that even rulers would find it hard to kill Martial Uncle Blackbird. Hua! Dongbu Shuang lowered his head and looked at it. As his gaze penetrated through, the black feather continued to grow bigger and bigger in his vision, turning into a vast continent. The entire continent was made up of countless black tubes. The combination of these countless tubes was simply too mystical. It was precisely because of this combination that the continent was incomparably stable. In other words, the feather was extremely powerful. The degree of its power far surpassed the extreme annihilation mysterious body armor. Is there a void tunnel inside each of these tubes, leading to an unknown place? Dongbu Shuang silently thought. The profoundness within the tubes was not any weaker than the entire black feather continent. It was just that the profoundness within the tubes was too blurry for Dongbu Shuang to see. Even the flow of the patterns was a blur. I keep feeling that this void passage is impossible to resist, Dongbu Shuang thought. This was an instinct. Just like how a mouse would feel fear when it meets a cat. This was a biological instinct. When Dongbu Shuang saw the void passage within the tubes, he felt that no restrictions would be able to suppress this void passage. Through the void passage, one could easily reach a certain place. The profoundness of the void passage was comparable to the talisman that he had obtained. Every single tube contains such a terrifying void passage. Billions of tubes formed the entire black feather continent. Dongbu Shuang was shocked by its composition. If the composition of his body could be so mystical, he would at least be comparable to a ruler. I wonder where Senior Uncle Blackbird came from. He isn't on the Cosmos Deity Demon list. Dongbu Shuang pondered for a moment before disregarding it. He was completely immersed in the composition of the black feather continent. The void passage was too blurry and hard to comprehend. But the black feather continent was extremely clear. It even had some similarities with some of the world-profound mysteries that he had comprehended. It was just that it was many times more profound. This made Dongbu Shuang vaguely understand that this might be his teacher's motive. Using this, he could deepen his comprehension of the world. That way, he would be able to encompass all deity hearts and transcend. Time passed. Dongbu Yu stayed in the monarch residence for over 300 years. Under the guidance of his parents, he was finally bestowed with Monarch Green's sculpted gift and left alone. Dongbu Shuang could only understand his son's movements through the Bloodshed Tavern's intelligence. Dongbu Qingyao cultivated diligently under Paragon Huiqing. This caused Paragon Huiqing to frequently praise Dongbu Shuang whenever he saw him. In the blink of an eye, it had been 16,000 years since the establishment of the Dongbu monarch residence. Who? Black Fog Sea Continent. A figure appeared within the time-space teleportation array. It was a green-robed, silver-haired woman. The green-robed, silver-haired woman looked at the majestic monarch residence. Her eyes were filled with desire. I have finally arrived at the Dongbu monarch residence. Very soon. She arrived at the main entrance of the residence. The aura emitted by the words Dongbu on the main entrance caused her to tremble slightly. The aura was vigorous like that of an ancient beast. It was as though it could destroy the heavens and earth with just a trace of its might. Even powerful existences would be instantly killed. As expected of the legendary monarch Dongbu. To be able to enter the dark abyss alone and even kill a powerful existence of the dark abyss while fighting one against three. The green-robed, silver-haired woman thought to herself. However, she did not know that the monarch Dongbu monarch residence's protection array had already changed. It used the array plate given by Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master as its core. It was supplemented by many other arrays to form the final array. Its power was extremely strong. Even an existence on the same level as Dongbu Shuang would not dare to behave atrociously here. This is the monarch residence. What are you doing here? One of the world deity guards at the entrance of the residence berated her. Monarch is collecting precious materials. I have a precious material to offer. Please pass on the message. The green-robed, silver-haired woman bowed respectfully. Precious material? The two world deity guards at the entrance, as well as the other guards, were shocked. They knew that their monarch had always been collecting precious materials. Wait here. I will pass on the message. That world deity guard did not dare to delay and immediately went to report. Star. Chapter 621. The green-robed, silver-haired lady waited silently outside the door. After a while, the world deity guard rushed over and said, "The Emperor has summoned you. Follow me quickly." The green-robed, silver-haired lady took a deep breath and entered the mansion. They flew into the mansion and came to a garden specially used to welcome guests. Reporting to the Emperor, the person is here. The world deity guard said respectfully. The azure-robed, silver-haired woman also saw a black-robed man standing in the distance, looking at the flowers and plants in the distance. The black-robed man turned around and looked at her. The lines of his face were clear, and his eyes were gentle, but the invisible aura he exuded made her feel fear from the bottom of her heart. Dongbu Shuiying's aura was too strong for her. Junior Chunyu greets the Emperor. The green-robed, silver-haired lady bowed respectfully. Shuang first glanced at the World Deity Protector. The World Deity Protector immediately bowed and left. You said you have the precious materials I need? Dongbu Shuang asked. Yes. The green-robed, silver-haired lady said. I just heard that the Emperor wants the jade heart grass root and the 7-leaf stone fruit. Hence I rushed over. Dongbu Shuang sighed. It had been 16,000 years since he released the news and the Stage 2 world deity had just heard about it. It was obvious that news spread much slower among world deities. This was also related to this lady's low strength. Some of the stronger Stage 4 world deities probably knew about it. What kind of precious material do you have? Dongbu Shuang asked. Jade heart grass root. The green-robed, silver-haired woman stretched out her hand, and a plant that glowed with a dark green light appeared in her hand. The plant's roots were very long, and each root was curved like a dragon or snake. There were even illusory green dragons swimming around the roots. Shui Ying revealed a grin. Very good. After obtaining the root of the jade heart grass from the 12 types of precious materials, there was only one left. Speak, what do you want? Dongbua Shui Ying asked. Divine crystal? Treasure? Or something else? The green-robed, silver-haired lady raised her head and looked at Dongbua Shui Ying, her eyes filled with desire. I want the Imperial Emperor to help me kill an enemy. Kill my enemies? Dongbua Shui Ying was taken aback. I don't need anything else. I just want you to help me kill my enemy. After we kill the enemy, we will offer the jade heart grass to the Celestial Emperor, the green-robed, silver-haired woman said. She also believed that with Dongbua Shui Ying's status, he would not do something like snatching. Shui Ying asked, This enemy of yours, what is his identity? What kind of strength? Tell me the details. The green-robed, silver-haired girl said in a low voice. I came from a desolate place outside the territory of the Bloodshed God Palace. My enemy is called World Deity Mo-Ba, and he was originally a demon from the Dark Abyss. He later came to the deity world and stayed there. He had the strength of a stage 3 world deity. He should be able to rank at the top of the 3rd heaven. He is extremely bloodthirsty and ruthless. He has killed countless people, and many of my loved ones and clansmen have been massacred by him. I was fortunate to cultivate outside and escape from this calamity. I only hope that the Imperial Emperor can kill him. A stage 3 world deity? Dongbua Shui Ying lightly nodded. He understood many world deities, but he did not know of this world deity Mo-Ba. He is a demon, and the reason why he could take root in the deity world is because he relied on the Devil Dragon King. The green-robed, silver-haired girl respectfully said, The Devil Dragon King is a powerful existence, and world deity Mo-Ba is a valiant general under him. He is quite favored by the Devil Dragon King. Which Devil Dragon King is a subordinate? Dongbua Shui Ying lightly nodded. This Devil Dragon loves killing the most. It is no wonder that he would accept a demon as his subordinate. The Dark Abyss repelled experts from the deity world. The moment they entered, they would be surrounded and attacked by experts led by the will of the Dark Abyss. But the deity world was different. The deity world was inclusive, and no matter which superpower experts entered the deity world, they would not be rejected. Thus, within the deity world, there were still some experts from the Dark Abyss. For example, there were experts from the Dark Abyss who chased after Monarch Mo Shui previously. All right, I understand. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. The green-robed, silver-haired girl was startled. What did he mean by understand? Did he agree to kill him, or not? Or did he intend to snatch it by force? This monarch Dongbua was the personal disciple of God Emperor. With such a great reputation, he should not be so despicable, right? Let me check first and understand a thing or two, then I will give you an answer. Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. Come, have a cup of tea first. The maid who was waiting not far away immediately went forward to help pour the tea. Dongbua Shui Ying also sat down and picked up a cup of tea. At the same time, he started to understand the detailed information through the Bloodshed Tavern system. Very soon, he received the news: the Devil Dragon King resided in the Devil Dragon Ridge. Legend has it that there was an army in the Devil Dragon Ridge that was commanded by the Devil Dragon King. In the army, there was a general called Universe Deity Mo-Ba. As Universe Deity Mo-Ba was a demon, he was extremely warlike and ruthless, and was loved by the Devil Dragon King. One of his doppelgangers actually stayed in the Devil Dragon Ridge for a long period of time. Dongbua Shui Ying frowned slightly. That was troublesome. If he wanted to kill, he would naturally kill both his original body and doppelgangers. Looking at Universe Deity Mo-Ba's information, he deserved to be killed. However, there was a doppelganger in the Devil Dragon King's lair? Devil Dragon King! Dongbua Shui Ying muttered softly. Although his voice was soft, the green-robed, silver-haired girl who was holding a cup of tea also looked towards Dongbua Shui Ying carefully. 1. The moment Dongwu Shuang muttered the Devil Dragon King's name, an extremely minute karma was formed between him and the Devil Dragon King. Through this karma line, Dongwu Shuiying's consciousness quickly extended over. It passed through the obstruction of space and arrived at a rather desolate starfield in the divine world. In this desolate starfield, there was a continuous mountain range. This continuous mountain range that spanned trillions of miles was the Devil Dragon Ridge. The Devil Dragon King had been operating there for a very long time, and ordinary almighties would definitely not dare to trespass. The Devil Dragon King's huge body was sitting on the peak of a mountain. In front of him were plates of delicacies, and he would occasionally lower his head to eat a plate. Even though he had become an almighty, he did not change his love for delicacies. The Devil Dragon King suddenly raised his head and looked in front of him. One! A blurry figure suddenly appeared in midair. The figure was condensing, and it was a black-robed man standing in midair. He was looking at the Devil Dragon King calmly. Dongwu Shuang? The Devil Dragon King immediately recognized him. This person in front of him was the famous Dongwu Shuang. Even though he, the Devil Dragon King, was slightly weaker, he was still ranked 95th on the Cosmos Deity Demon list. Naturally, he knew of this Monarch Dongwu who was ranked 52nd. I wonder why Monarch Dongwu is looking for me? The Devil Dragon King lifted his head and asked. At the same time, his gaze swept around. Those subordinates that served the delicacies immediately retreated obediently. None of them dared to disturb him. On this mountain peak, only the Devil Dragon King and Dongwu Shuang were left. Dongwu Shuang was merely an incarnation that descended by relying on karma. It was just like how ordinary deities could use spatial imprints to project themselves in the material world. Even though Dongwu Shuang and the Devil Dragon King were far apart, they were both within the divine world. Relying on the karma line to condense an incarnation here was indeed an easy task. I am here to see the Devil Dragon King for a matter, Dongwu Shuang said. It was time. Chapter 622. Your Majesty, please speak. The Demon Dragon King was slightly cautious. Although he had no enmity with this Emperor Dongbo, they were not on the same side. Dongwu Shuang stood in midair and looked at the Demon Dragon King. You have a subordinate called Mo. Is he from the Dark Abyss? Yes. The Demon Dragon King nodded. Why? Your Majesty, why are you concerned about him? Shuang nodded. I was originally prepared to kill him, but knowing that he is your subordinate, Devil Dragon King, if I didn't inform Devil Dragon King before killing him, I would be in the wrong. The Demon Dragon King's large eyes narrowed, and he laughed. Ha ha ha, Your Majesty, you are giving me face. It's just a demon, so I killed him. Your Majesty, there is no need to be so courteous. How about this? I will personally deal with Mo. How about this? Thank you, Demon Dragon King. Dongwu Shuang smiled. It's a small matter. The Demon Dragon King laughed. Dongwu Shuang nodded and smiled. If Demon Dragon King is free, feel free to visit my residence. I will definitely accompany you for a few drinks. I will definitely visit when I am free. The Demon Dragon King replied. Dongwu Shuang smiled, and his figure disappeared. Only the Demon Dragon King was left on the mountain peak. Only then did the Demon Dragon King's huge eyes turn cold, emitting a cold intent. He was an old man who had lived for countless years. How could he not understand Dongwu Shuiying's meaning? Dongwu Shuiying's words were very clear. I was prepared to kill him. It was obvious that he was filled with killing intent. If he forcefully rejected, he would offend this Emperor Dongbo. Since this Emperor Dongbo said this in advance, it was obvious that he had no intention of becoming enemies. For the sake of Mo, he was willing to fall out with Monarch Dongbo? The Demon Dragon King would not do such a thing no matter how stupid he was. Mo, quickly come and see me, the Demon Dragon King ordered. Soon. South. A demon with two huge curved horns and black scales appeared. He knelt down respectfully and said, Greetings, Your Majesty. Universe deity Mo Ba was still very satisfied with his current life. He was originally living in the dark abyss. However, when one of his enemies heard that he had broken through to the stage 4 heaven, he was so frightened that he immediately fled. He escaped from the dark abyss to the divine world and sought refuge under the fierce demon dragon king. As expected, their temperaments were compatible. The demonic dragon king valued him greatly. How comfortable! Universe deity Mo Ba was delighted in his heart. In the deity world, he could kill if he wanted to and enjoy if he wanted to. Behind him was a powerful existence. His days here were much better than in the dark abyss. Mo Ba, the demon dragon king said in a low voice. Have you ever offended Monarch Dong Bo? Monarch Dong Bo? World deity Mo Ba was startled. Bloodshed God Palace's Monarch Dong Bo? I've heard of him, but I don't have any dealings with him. I don't dare to offend Emperor Lord Dong Bo either. The demon dragon king sighed inwardly. Who cares? Who cares how he offended him? Dongbo Shuang had personally met him to talk about this matter. Who? The demon dragon king waved his claw. The claw instantly pierced through the obstruction of space. World deity Mo Ba revealed a look of terror. He wanted to dodge, yet he discovered that the surrounding space had completely suppressed him. He could not move at all. He could only watch as the claw slapped onto his body. Why? World deity Mo Ba's heart was filled with terror and confusion. He faintly guessed that it might be related to offending Monarch Dong Bo. But it was too late. Under the huge claw's attack, the space where world deity Mo Ba was at was like a piece of paper being shredded. It shattered into countless pieces before turning into nothingness. At the same time, in another luxurious palace, the other avatar of world deity Mo Ba who was currently enjoying was similarly attacked by karma in terror. The divine world was not the material world. There was no protection in the divine world. The demon dragon king, this old dragon, could be listed on the universe deity demon list. His attainments in karma were extremely profound. The power transmitted through karma caused world deity Mo Ba's avatar to instantly die. His body fell, but his true deity heart was already destroyed. At the level of a ruler, through karma, even an existence close to a paragon could be killed forcefully. Of course, it was a different story if one had the protection of the material world. In the material world, a ruler could only kill a stage 2 heaven with a thought. With the help of an oath, he could kill a stage 3 heaven. An ordinary almighty could only kill a stage 1 world deity through karma. But if it was in the divine world, the karma attack of the almighties was equally terrifying. In Monarch Dong Bo's residence, the green-robed, silver-haired lady held a teacup and took a sip. She looked at Dongbo Shuang, who was sitting nearby and drinking tea. She was anxious and nervous. I was too careless. I should have hidden the jade heart grass first. When Monarch Dong Bo kills my enemy, I will give it to him. I trusted Monarch Dong Bo too much. I believed that with his status, he would not snatch it forcefully, but now, he did not even give me a reply. He should at least give me a reply. As long as he agrees, I believe that killing world deity Mo Ba won't be difficult. Could it be that he is afraid of Demon Dragon King? Oh right, world deity Mo Ba has an avatar that lives in Demon Dragon Ridge. Maybe it would be troublesome for Monarch Dong Bo to kill a stage 3 world deity in Demon Dragon Ridge. The green-robed, silver-haired lady was worried. After all, what she could do was too little. All right. Dongbo Shuang, who was sitting opposite, suddenly spoke. The green-robed, silver-haired lady's spirit rose. She looked at Dongbo Shuang. Was he going to give her a reply? World deity Mo Ba is dead. Dongbo Shuang said. Your request has been fulfilled. Dead? The green-robed, silver-haired lady lowered her head and looked at the teacup in her hand. She had yet to finish the tea in the teacup. She had just made her request and world deity Mo Ba was dead. Look! Dongbo Shuang pointed at the sky beside him. The space in the sky was distorted. From a distance, it was transmitted to a luxurious palace far away. The luxurious palace was in a state of panic. The master of the palace, world deity Mo Ba, was lying on the ground without any signs of life. This is Mo Ba's demon palace? The green-robed, silver-haired lady looked at the scene in shock. This is one of his avatars. His original body is dead and his avatar was destroyed through karma. Hence, his body is intact but his divine heart is destroyed. Dongbua Shuang explained. The moment Mo Ba died, Dongbua Shuang determined that he was dead through karma. The green-robed, silver-haired lady looked at the body of world deity Mo Ba, who used to be ferocious and overbearing, lying there without moving. She felt complicated. At that moment, she had almost no more doubts. Emperor Dongbua didn't need to fake such a scene. He had no choice but to snatch it from her directly. Thank you, Emperor. The green-robed, silver-haired lady offered the jade heart grass. Dongbua Shuang smiled and accepted it. Although the green-robed, silver-haired lady believed him, she still sent her original body to the temporal palace to purchase information. The temporal palace replied, World deity Mo Ba's original body and avatar were destroyed. The death of his original body is suspected to be related to the demon dragon king. His avatar was destroyed through karma. This result shocked the green-robed, silver-haired lady. Could it be the demon dragon king? She felt slightly startled. An existence like Monarch Dongbo was indeed formidable. She went to ask him for a favor, yet before she could even finish drinking a cup of tea, Monarch Dongbo was still sitting in front of her, and world deity Mo Ba died. Dongbua Shuang only lacked the last precious material, the 7-leaf stone fruit. It was useless for him to be anxious. He could only wait in silence. He hoped that a universe deity would send the treasure over after receiving the news. To Dongbua Shuang, he wasn't afraid of the universe deities raising any conditions. After all, he could satisfy all the conditions of the precious material. It wasn't to the extent that anyone would be so arrogant to the point of wanting to learn an absolute art just for a precious material. Dongbua Shuang would chase him out immediately. Time passed. 60,000 years after the establishment of the mansion, the last of the precious materials had finally arrived. I have the precious material that the Emperor needs. Please inform him. A handsome young man stood at the entrance of the Emperor Dongbua mansion. Asterisk second update.